All right, what's up, everybody? We're gonna give everybody a few minutes to get caught up here and hop into the stream before we get going. Because I'm gonna give kind of everybody a fair chance. So we're gonna take us about the first 3 to 5 minutes and just kind of catch up a little bit. So, actually, first off, do y'all like see the weird thumbnails I'm putting together? Because I think the last time I did a deck doctor one, I was like me as a doctor in like a hospital or something. Like they're just goofy. I'm just messing around, like putting together some fun stuff, but like just to be a little bit different. So they're just not the same boring like magic thumbnail that you're running into. I think there's some benefit to having it stand out a little bit. So there's that. Also, if you didn't see the video that just went up, I shared a video that's 5 tips, but technically like seven, to help you be better at Magic. I think there's a lot of people who wonder like why they're not winning more, why they struggle as much more than they think they should. And it was a fun video to do, just to share some different, I don't know, perspectives, some ideas, some different things, some techniques, some stuff you can pay attention to help be a little bit better. So, if you want to check that out, it just went live like in the last hour. So, if you want to get a look at that, also heads up if you're going to be in Magic Con Chicago, I'm going to be there in February. So, you can come say hello and come hang out and we'll just have a good time. I'm not going to promise to take anybody out for drinks or meals because it's going to be cold in Chicago. I have no idea if I'm even going to go outside of the building, outside of like the catwalk to go back to my hotel or whatever. Maybe if it's like nearby, I don't have to go very far because, man, I am not a fan of the cold. So it's going to be very interesting to see what that's like. But I will be there as a guest of Wizard of the Coast to do some fun things. I'll make an appearance right now at the dinner party, I think, on Friday. And we'll see what else they have me doing. So I'll try to keep you all updated on that. Also, don't forget, if you want to join the Discord, links in the description. I have a bunch of shirts available. If you want to buy some merchandise, those links are also available. So, yeah, just all kinds of things going on. How's it going? Those of you that are here early, Joe, Daniel, thank you, Alex, for stopping in. Much appreciated. Just so you know, we are going to be live today on 3 platforms. We are on YouTube, on Twitch, and on Facebook. So there is going to be a little bit of a process here when we start submitting decks for how you each need to do it. As a matter of fact, I will tell you right now, if you are watching from YouTube, you will need to join the Discord because YouTube does not allow you to post links in the chat. So you're going to need to be on Discord if you want to participate at all. So that's a thing. If you want to submit a deck, I mean, if not, you don't have to join the Discord. Like, that's fine, up to you. But just saying, if you want to participate, that's a real thing. You're going to want to go do that. I believe on Facebook, it shouldn't be a problem. You should be able to just post right in the chat discussion. So that should be okay. On Twitch should also be okay to just post that right in the link. I'm pretty sure the last time we did that, it worked out that way. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we need to catch up on before we do a deep dive and start taking submissions. I know that's going to be a thing. Actually, okay, too. I do want to say something here real quick. If you are looking to, if your deck doesn't get selected, right? Because we can only do so many because I'm probably going to be on for an hour and a half, 2 hours. But if you don't get selected, I have a membership level on YouTube where anytime, any day, it automatically gives you a form that you fill out your deck link and everything else and what you're trying to fix. And it goes directly to my email. And I will respond to that, give you deck tips. If it's a cool deck, we can feature it, whatever. And that's just part of my YouTube memberships. You go check that out. You can also get extra content. If you're on YouTube when I'm streaming, you get access to emotes and other things. I send out questionnaires and things about content that I'm going to make. It goes just to my members. So there's a lot of that stuff there. If y'all aren't YouTube members, you can become part of it and you can get access to this and get deck help whenever you want. You don't have to wait till I'm streaming. Because I only do these streams really, I think recently it's been like once a month, but usually they're not even that frequent when we do these Deck Doctor brew streams. So just putting that out there, not trying to hard sell you on my memberships. I totally get it. If you don't want to sign up wherever, that's fine. But for those of you that are looking for help off cycle, if you will, and you just have an idea, you want to run it by somebody, that is one way you can do it. And the queue is usually open. Even of the people that are like my tier 3 members, I only get a couple of months from people. So there's a good chance I'll see it fairly quickly after you submit it. All right. So it looks like we have some people from Twitch and YouTube hopping in here. Agar Vulo, welcome. Davy J, how's it going? All right. Hard sell. We're all here for you anyway. No, I don't need to hard sell. I try not to. Here's the thing. All of those things help support the channel, help support me. Big deal right now, because if y'all have seen my shorts that have gone up around the internet have been much better. That's because I'm working with an editor now, and I have to pay an editor to help do better editing than I do. Because for those of you who don't know, I have literally edited 2,000 plus videos of various varieties by myself in just under 4 years, right? Literally just me. That's a ton. And I have no more time. So for you to get more content and more interesting things, I have to start working with an editor so I can submit more fun stuff for you. Otherwise, I can never produce them. I think for those of my regulars know this, but I actually, hey, BR Joe, I actually have a binder, a spiral notebook, a reusable notebook that I sit next to my computer, and I write down ideas in there all the time. And literally every month, I have to erase like at least 15 ideas that I never get to turn into videos because I just don't have time to edit them. Because like sometimes, even for me, like editing a 1 minute short sometimes could be a couple hours worth of work to make it look really good. You know, if I am trying to make like the video that went up today about, why you don't win more at Magic, like that's several hours of editing between putting in like graphics and simple effects. And this one, I didn't even put, like search music or anything else to put in it. So if I do all that, like that's a lot of extra time. And I would like to give more of those type of videos to you, but I just can't do them without an editor. So a chunk of my budget now is going to pay for an editor to help me produce more of that. So hopefully y'all get more useful content that you enjoy, but it kind of has to come from somewhere because I'm just out of time. So that's what it goes for. Jacob Lord says, hey, this is a great idea for a stream. Looking forward to different decks. I submitted a link in the Discord. You submitted too early. It doesn't count. I doesn't count. I didn't tell everybody to submit yet. I just told everybody you can go to Discord and get ready, but I didn't tell everybody submitted yet. If you're posting a whole deck list in the chat, that will not work. That is not how this is going to happen. So we're just going to assume that's not a thing. Editing is tedious. Yeah, I don't mind it. I'm just not good at it. I literally taught myself how to edit in the very beginning of 2020 and up through like the first half of that year. And my editing, like I'll learn some things and I'll watch some YouTube videos and they look pretty good for a novice level. But if anybody's an actual editor, they'll know most of what I'm doing is pretty simplistic. I'm just being creative with like the 20 skills that I know, unfortunately. Yeah, exactly. Hold, like don't move yet. Okay, so here's the deal. Here's how it's going to go down. Whether you're right now, I'm gonna tell you, if you're on YouTube and you want to submit, you're gonna have to go into my Discord server and go to the standard channel, because we cannot post links on YouTube. Everywhere else, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on Twitch, you can just post a link to your deck list in the act. Not yet, but when I say go, you can post the link to your deck list in the chat. However, you do not post the full deck list. How we do this is you find a site you want to host your deck. I put mine on Moxfield. There's a bunch out there though. You can use Goldfish. You can use, I don't know. There's a bunch. Aether Hub, whatever. Once you put your deck list there, make sure you give me the link that will allow a user to see it so that I can copy it and I can load it into Arena. If not, we will skip you and we will go to the next person because there's likely to be multiple people who want to get help today. So you need to be very careful about making sure you give me the proper link so I can see your deck. Otherwise, I have to bump you to the back of the queue. So now I'm saying go. So you can go into Discord. You can go into wherever, post your deck list, give me the links starting now. Somebody already posted early, so I'm not counting that one. Whichever, I think that was from Jacob. That one didn't count because I came too early. I'm just deleting that one. I'm pretending I didn't see it. Same thing from Night Sky. You got to repost it. That went too early. You were 3 minutes too early on that one. Not counting that one. You need to give me another link. All right. Let's see what we got here. I'm checking. We've got none on Twitch yet. None on the Facebook yet. So actually, if you just post, you're gonna be the first one right now. Let's see. I'm checking them all as we go. So in the standard, okay, cool. We have some now that blew up. Nope. Those were early. 605. Who got in at 608? There we go. Night Sky was the first one in at 608. That's what I got right here. This is what I love about the internet. We can timestamp things. So I'm going to build a queue here for a second. Oh, that's not right. Why is this not letting me type? Okay, there it goes. I was like, wait a minute. All right, so I'm going to put these links here so I have them. I also have, looks like Sleeveless MTG also got in around that same time. So we're going to put you next in the queue. In the future, I'm sure I'll find some really creative way to share this so people can have like the queue and understand who's next in there or whatever. But I'll just try to let y'all know as we go along here. Let's see. We have, all right, there's some people who are interested in on Twitter or on Twitch, but did not post anything. That is fine. All right, so it looks like we're going to go with just the first handful. Let's see. Dragon, not sharing a link, but I just want to say great work. I enjoy your content. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. It is a lot of work. That's the thing I think that does in most creators is that I don't think they realize how much work it really is. And I think once they start coming to terms with that, like they just realize it's way more than they signed up for. But I think if I were to tell anybody anything about anything in the world, is that if you ever think it's easy, always ask yourself, why don't more people do it? And that applies to so many things in the world. I think a lot of people will see stuff on TV and go, like, oh, I could do that. Like, that's not that hard. But it's like, really? Then how come you don't know anybody else that does it? You know, because if it's easy money, everybody wants to make easy money. Like, just being real, whatever that thing happens to be, that more people would do it, but they're not. Paul Buckeye, how's it going? Happy Tuesday to you. My understanding of streaming is that actual time in front of the camera is only half the work. A lot of times it's not even half, truthfully. Just before we get into deck lists, like just to give you a perspective, like this week alone, I've sent 4 or 5 emails to different, actually today's Tuesday, I sent the one on Sunday. So probably like 7 different project related emails. I've had discussions with my editor going back and forth on some pieces. I've had to talk to the MTG ambassador. We had a meeting for that. And then I actually had to discuss some stuff, projects I'm working on that y'all aren't seeing yet, that you probably won't see for a couple weeks. I had a meeting with a brand to try to get another sponsor. I still have to prepare communication for 2 of my current brand partners to see if I can increase what they're going to pay me next year. I worked on thumbnails and stuff for this silly thing. I've recorded stuff for another video that's going to go up tomorrow. Just like a ton of things that go on in a week that don't involve actually like being face to face in front of a camera. So I think people forget that sometimes. There's just so much extra. But it's like any job. Like I tell people, when you work for yourself, like when you go to your job, you clock in and you are whatever your title is, and you have those like 20 jobs that your title does, right? But when you work for yourself, you're now all 20 of those jobs trying to do all 20 things. Now, some of those things get done less, or you have to decide which ones aren't important to your processes, but you're the one doing everything, you know, until you get big enough that obviously you can have a script writer, an editor, or somebody to handle like a personal assistant, you know, whatever. That all comes with time down the road. Those works are not wasted. They're all noticeable. Well, thank you so much. You like the new animation and the general production value on the deck intro? Yeah, we've been doing that for like 6 months now. I feel like it's been a while, but yeah, that's been really good. Working in the deck list. All right, here you are. If you're on YouTube, you have to go to my Discord and go to the standard channel and post a link there so I can copy the deck list, put it into Arena. If you're on Facebook or on Twitch and want to participate, give me a link to wherever you host the deck list, and then I will use that to, hey, Donna, how's it going? I will use that to bring up your deck. So right now I've got 3 in the queue. I've got Night Sky, Sleeveless MTG, and Meant to Live 218. Don't see anyone else. I see somebody just joined the Discord. I'm assuming they'll have a deck list here in a second. So let's go ahead and hop in. And I'm just making sure there's nobody else before I start up here. All right, cool. Let me go get the first deck list from Night Sky, and we'll see what we're working with. He put his over on Moxfield, which is my deck side of choice these days. Let me export this, and we will see what you got. And here's the thing. If you're submitting a list, I don't want to see like your whatever it is, I don't know, domain control, but you're playing like two different cards. Like that's not what we're here to see. Like I want to see weird selection, like some creature theme that nobody's playing, some bad card you're trying to build around, some weird combos. Like that's what I'm here to help people with today. This isn't just like I want to make my tournament deck better. Like that, we ain't doing that today. That's not what today's about. We do that on other days, but that's not what today is about. Oh, I just realized my deck. I still have 100 decks in here. Oh my god, I have to delete some things, y'all. Give me a quick second. I just realized I'm always working on a pile of different decks, and I keep some of my own in there live so I can just like reference those. But I run out of space. I wish Arena would let me just pay like 10.99 for like 50 more deck slots. They would totally get $10 off of me. I'm so easy when it comes to that. Seriously. All right, let me delete some things, delete some things, delete some things. Some of these I haven't even made videos for, though I did make an updated werewolves deck, so I can get rid of that one. The Night Adventures list, I probably need to do an updated one of those, but that's fine. The self-mill deck I thought was actually pretty sweet. Cauldron, I never even made a video with that. Like, there's so many in here I've tested or that I'm working on that never became anything, which is so crazy. But that's the other thing too. Like I spend a lot of time working on stuff that y'all actually never see. And I've discussed it before. I think there's more to learn from watching things that fail, even more so than learning from things that work. Because I think learning from the things that fail actually save you time, right? Because a lot of people are going to try to deck build or brew stuff. But if you already knew certain combinations weren't good or didn't work or didn't hit the meta the way you wanted or whatever, you could just skip that step, right? But the problem is everybody just wants to see the deck that wins, even though when they play it, it may not win or they may not be as good as the person playing it or whatever. That's just what they want to see because it's that whole idea of like, oh, well, I could copy that deck and do the thing. Even though I think it could be way more entertaining to watch some stuff that just flops, right? Like you get to see it go off maybe one time, but then you get really close and it struggles all the other times. Like to me, that's more interesting content, but that's not what a lot of people want to watch, which is kind of sad, really. Believe me, no one else on Earth is playing my bad deck. That's funny. I want to see the best artifact deck that can actually compete. I don't know. We've had some on the channel already. We've done artifact-based decks already this season. We'll probably have some more. Let's see. Your old werewolves deck from like a year ago is how I found you. Oh, I'm a little sad that my first homebrew deck has no place in the current meta, but oh well. That's common. I have a lot of ideas that just never become anything, sadly. Must be Golgari aggro. That's funny. Your skull deck worked, but then flopped. That can also happen. That's also a real thing. But all right, let's bring this deck up. Let's see what we can do here with this. It's a black-white deck of some type. And I try not to look at these until I have them on camera, so I can give you like my for real first impressions. But here we go. We've got Unholy Efficient. This is a vampire. Oh, this is obviously a vampire deck, right? Because you have Gift of Fangs. All right, I see what we're doing. Ichor Drinker. Not excited about this card, not gonna lie. I think this is kind of a subpar vampire, but there's not many one-drop vampires either, so I kind of get what you're going for there. Amelia actually is a vampire. Bartolome obviously is a vampire. Glorifier of Suffering. When it enters a battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature or artifact. If when you do, put a +1/+1 counter on up to 2 target creatures. This feels not great. Not gonna lie, I think we're maybe aiming for a sacrifice theme of some kind, but I don't know if I'm feeling this guy. Sacrifice another creature or artifact. Each opponent loses. Yeah, the problem here is these are going to be very slow. I can see where we're headed already, and we're just not taking advantage of the better cards. Yeah, I think that's the issue here. Okay, so first thing, Glorifier of Suffering. You don't even have that many things that you really want to sacrifice, right? Like thinking about it, what are you wanting to sacrifice when you play this card? Because right now we don't have anything that even like it has to be an artifact or a creature. We don't have any artifacts unless an Ichor Drinker happened to have been exiled from the graveyard or whatever. So it's going to have to be a creature. And you don't want to get rid of either of these 2 mana things because these are some of your better cards in the deck. And then you also don't really want to get rid of either of these unless they're just there for fodder, but then why are we playing them, you know? So I don't think that really works. I what I'm noticing here is this is like it wants to be a sacrifice deck when realistically it should probably just be a decent vampire deck with some sacrifice elements. And I think that would be better. Here's actually, hold on a second. I'm going to give you all a sneak peek here, actually, if I have it. Yeah, so here's a vampire deck I haven't even played yet on the channel that I've been goofing around with. And it plays Rite of Oblivion and Bartolome and Blood Tithe Harvester, and I don't think it has any other real sack elements. That's not true. I guess technically it has a Thrill Seeker and an Anja, but realistically, no other real sack elements. But one of the best cards I think you're not playing in that list is Sanguine Evangelist. This card is super good, especially if you want to sacrifice anything, right? Because this gives you a bat you can sacrifice, or in a pinch, you can sacrifice this to get an extra creature to sacrifice. Let's say you're trying to get through with like the final damage on Ptolemy or something. Like that's a real thing. So links to Discord in the description if you're looking for links. So that's a thing there. Or if you're on Twitch, it's down in the banners below or whatever we call those. Vran also gives you bonuses whenever something dies, so that's actually a benefit as well. So and again, Blood Tithe, Voldaren Bloodcaster actually produces more artifacts that you can sacrifice as well. If you notice, not even playing what's her name in here because I don't have much that really gains life. I mean, Markov Baron and the Preacher technically can be elements of life gain, and I guess Veto if we sacrifice something, but that's kind of it. So I would say probably think about just making it a quality vampire deck that has some sacrifice elements, and then think about other things that would benefit from being sacrificed. Because, like I said, I think Evangelist. Oh, it helps if I spell that right. Goodness, I didn't even get that close to right. It's been one of those days. But yeah, Evangelist is your best thing if you're trying to play any element of sacrifice stuff. Plus, it pumps your stuff whenever it attacks, right? It's just a good card. So, like, that's probably where you want to start. I would not play Glorifier of Suffering. I would not play Acolyte of Aclazotz. It's just too slow, and you don't have enough things to sacrifice. Like, maybe if you were playing this list with something like what's his name that produces the rat every turn, this guy, Lord Skitter. If you were playing this and something else that was maybe making tokens or making treasure or making blood, then that would make a little more sense because now you have things to sacrifice. But the problem right now is if you get either of these, you just don't really have anything to sacrifice. I think that's the biggest problem here. So you have 5 cards minimum, not counting Bartolome, that really don't have options of anything to get rid of. So, like, yeah, I think that's the flaw in the deck here. So I would go back and just look for good black and white vampires. Max out like your Markov Baron, stuff like that. And then maybe find 2 sets of 4 and 1 set of 2 of whatever those cards are that can fit into your deck that can supplement your discard element or a sacrifice element. So that way you can still play it as a vampire deck and just be good and aggressive and then get bonuses whenever you start sacrificing things. And if you never sacrifice stuff, you're still just a good vampire deck. I think right now you're kind of like a couple of good vampires, a couple of bad vampires, and then some things that say the word sacrifice but don't really have anything to sacrifice. So I would start that, go down that road, and then revisit it, and you'll probably be better off. Okay, double checking everything. Again, if you want to post a link to be looked at, if you're on Facebook or on Twitch, you can post it directly in the chat. Otherwise, if you're on YouTube, you need to hop into my Discord, link in the description, and then go to the standard channel and post it in there, and we will get you into the queue, which right now, according to Rapid Fire Geek, did not follow instructions. You have to post me a link somewhere that I can copy the list and put that in. because that always works cleaner than just copy and pasting, because inevitably, like, something's not right, or it has one word in there that doesn't work, and then it just causes a problem. Tall bearded fool is now in the queue, so we will add you in there, and you will be third in line, I believe, currently. So we'll make that happen. We will add you to the queue. We will remove Night Sky because we just got done with that list, and we will take a look at what Sleeveless MTG submitted. So let's go take a look and see what you got. Export this. All right. I'm going to ignore sideboards for this purpose because I'm just talking about the main deck. And let's see what we got. March of Smurly. Why does it have the wrong card in there? Oh, I see what happened. Hold on. This is why sometimes it can be a problem trying to put deck lists in, because some sites don't copy correctly or they add things in wrong. All right, I know how to solve this problem. Hold on a second. I've done this before. At least this is one I've encountered, so I know what it is. All right. Whoop, not that. There we go. Now I should be able to do it. All right. Should be good now. All right. So this is a Just Guy list. Let's see what we're working with. Man, you had your 4th COVID shot. Yeah, I'm actually good. I got to go get mine just after Christmas, I think. But I also have to get other shots and things too. I never go to the doctor, so like every time I go in, they're like, "Hey, did you know you haven't been to the doctor in like forever? You probably need to get updated tuberculosis shot or whatever." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're not wrong." I've just been fortunate to not had any major health issues, so hopefully it stays that way. All right. So what do we got here? We got Helping Hand, which returns a 3 mana value or less creature from our graveyard to the battlefield. We have Consider, Play with Fire, Chart a Course, Make Disappear. Where are the creatures we're going to be returning with this? I was going to say there's Picklock, Prankster, Protect the Negotiators, Bitter Reunion, Third Path, Iconoclast, Monastery, Swiftspear, Haughty Djinn. Why are we playing Bitter Reunion? Yeah, I don't. I don't. I don't really follow. I think there's cards here that don't need to be here. Honestly. Like Helping Hand's not bad. I get, you want to try to keep your Swift Spears or Mentor and stuff on the battlefield. Like, so I don't hate that. Like, that's fine. Sometimes it's just going to be dead, unfortunately. I don't know if I'd play 4. 3 is probably fine. I don't think you want them in your hand a lot of the time. I think you'd be better served, instead of playing some of these cards, playing like what you call Fading Hope, because you're going to need to get some things out of the way sometimes so you can keep attacking. Obviously, more Play with Fire so you can stay aggressive, because that's what you're wanting to do with these. You want to be aggressive with this stuff. I don't think this needs Bitter Reunion. Like, I get the idea that like creatures get haste, and if I make 4 or 5 tokens, they can attack, but you just don't need it. Like, this is a case where it's what I call trying to win better, right? It's style points. Like, you don't need to be aggressive and attack right that turn. Like, a lot of times, especially if you have instants, you can just, during their instep, like Play with Fire them, Consider whatever, made 3-4 guys, and then you attack on your turn, giving them all +2, +3, and boom, they're dead anyway, right? You don't have to waste the card on that. Whereas those could be Fading Hopes to get stuff out of... Oh, man, what are my fingers doing? Not typing words I know I can spell. Jeez, come on now. So, like, Fading Hopes make more sense, really, than that. Because, again, you want to just keep pressing the issue. You don't necessarily want a lot of counters in this deck either. Because, again, you're wanting to be aggressive, right? You want to be able to get something out of the way, shoot a defender, attack with those tokens. If you draw the spells, the counters, you're just sitting on them and they go nowhere, right? So that's not the best. So I would probably cut... I don't know if you want... I think you'd want 3 or 4 total, whether that's like 2 and 2 or whatever, but some combination thereof, I think. is what I would go with. Picklock Prankster, I don't understand why this is in the list. Like, for real, for real. Like, I get that you could return a card to your hand, but like, could it just be another thing that just draws a card? Right? Because you don't really want stuff in your graveyard. That doesn't really do much. I mean, I guess if you're trying to go like super deep with like the free the fey to put stuff in the graveyard and then you helping hand to get a thing out of the yard. Like, I mean, I guess if you're but that's like really like I gotta have the right 2 or 3 cards and hope that one of the cards milled wasn't the helping hand. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot kind of going on there that is a little weird. So hey, look, the bots showed up today. Always gotta love when that happens. Let's get rid of those folks. Let's put the banhammer on these particular duders. That would be great. Let's get them out of here. There you go. They don't need to be interrupting us. But hey, it's always like a sign you made it whenever the bots show up, right? Because you're at least worth their time, I guess. But yeah, all right. So back to this. I'm cutting the Picklock Prankster because I don't think that's even truly that much worth considering. I would also maybe try to find room for one other threat because right now you don't have very many. Meeting of the Minds is fine. You can Voke draw 2. I think here's the problem, right? There's so many spells already. Like this deck has 26 spells and only 12 actual creatures. Like I feel like that number needs to be closer to 15 to 17 and then the difference making up spells. Because otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to draw all these spells, and then you're going to get like 1 creature. And then they're just going to kill it, right? Or you're just not going to get any creatures because you're going to be wasting time drawing to try to get to the creatures. And then you spent a lot of your good spells just trying to get that, right? So something else is probably what you're... Honestly, anything else with... Kind of like the deck list we played the other day. Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I kind of... Maybe you're not a regular. I don't know. Hold on a second. We've done this just this past week. Yeah, hold on. I just need to put 2 of something in here so it'll stay near the top of the pile. I'll come back to this in a second. But it says, Joe says, Pete is the only content creator that I'm a member of. Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot, actually. There's a lot of options out there. Yeah, so in this Narset list, I actually was also playing Kendra Spellspear and Swiftspear, and I didn't even bother playing Haughty Djinn and just played Narset, you know, which was more than fine. Not that Haughty Djinn's bad, obviously, when you're putting a bunch of spells in the graveyard, totally reasonable. But just saying that's another way to go. But I think having another body, whether it's Spellspear or Swiftspear or whatever, like can keep you moving forward and give you something to do on those early turns. And sometimes, honest truth is, it's okay if they just die, because if one of these catches a stray and gets killed by cut down, then your Iconoclast isn't. You know what I mean? Like, or your Monastery Mentor isn't, right? So you kind of want these early things sometimes just to draw fire. And then you could play your other stuff. So, and if they don't die, well, then great. Now you're playing stuff and you have this 3/3 or this 4/4 or whatever that gets in and gets it done. So something else to consider that you can go with. All right, so back to this. I'm fine if you want to keep some number of the March of the Swirling Mist, but I guess the issue with the March is by keeping the March as your removal of choice, because you kind of have that, and now we added Fading Hope. You kind of need as many things as possible to be blue, or you're going to lose some of the advantage of the card, which is tough. But I do think at the bare minimum, this can benefit from Narset. I'd play like 2 of them. I like going, honestly, like, maybe we just go to 1 more. I think Fading Hope's just really good for this list. Charter Course is a sorcery to draw 2. You already have Consider. You've got Meeting of the Minds. Though, to be fair, Meeting of the Mind only really works once you have a couple of tokens. But it is an instant, which is nice. Man, this is tough. This is tough. This is where deck building's hard, because you have a lot of things you want to do, but you're also trying to like meet the brief for the rest of the deck so it functions is the other thing. So what if we cut one helping hand, keep the meeting of the minds and the consider, and you still get to scry from play with fire some of the time. You get to scry with fading hope some of the time, and cut the chart, of course. And oh gosh, trying to see what we put in those last few slots. Maybe we go with the creatures we played last time. We just play like 3 of this dude, and then you at least have some more threats. So now we up the creature count to what, like 17? All right, that feels better. 17 and 23 is still a bit of a spread. I think we could get this up to 18 and cut one more spell somewhere. It might be Meeting of the Mind since it's slower and doesn't always draw. But again, the problem is sometimes you're going to have Helping Hand that doesn't have a target. Sometimes, you're going to have counters that are waiting on a target. So that's a little tough, but that's probably something like that, what I would do. So maybe I go 1 less Meeting of Mind, +1 Spell Spear, and ta-da, we're closer. I mean, honestly, from my personal benefit, I guess, if I were to play this, I wouldn't play Helping Hand. I think I would go for 2 more threats of some kind there, just because it doesn't benefit you being aggressive. Even though, don't get me wrong, it can get you a creature back that is important to the deck. I'm not saying it doesn't have purposes, but just me personally. However many lands we have in here, I didn't even check. Land count is exactly 20, which it's fine. It works because you only really have Haughty Djinn and Narset that are real 3 or 4 mana things. That's not true. You have Monastery Mentor, so maybe you need one more somewhere. I don't know. But a lot of the deck is mostly pretty. You can see from the curve here that like everything's 1, 2, 3 for the most part. So 20 land is probably okay. That said, Stormcarved Coast is going to be a little bit tough because, you're playing that Sundown Pass. These are going to come into play tapped a lot early. Something to think about. But you do need more blue sources. You have 26 blue, 14 red, 8 white. So you're already maxing out the multi-lands for blue and red. So there's not a lot you can do there. Yeah, blue and white, white, red. Yeah, it's probably fine. I wouldn't mess with it too much. I would probably go with something like this. So yeah, something like this is probably good. Like, this is probably closer to where I would be. And this way you have more things to do with those spells. You have more things to put in the way. You probably don't get run over as easily now. And you still get to keep your helping hands, a couple of them, so you can still keep that aspect of the deck. You got more things to get stuff out of the way with Fading Hopes and Play with Fires now. You can go upstairs with some damage, which you didn't have before, really. And Narset can just set everything off if she survives. So, like, this is probably a lot better. But honestly, look at the deck I posted a couple days ago. Like, you might actually enjoy that. I thought it was really cool. And it's kind of down this path anyway, just not playing Haughty Djinn. And it was really, really good. Like, I would play that deck more. I didn't really see much to complain about. All right, so let me double check the queue, see if anybody else is to add. Let's see. We got who added themselves in here? We got King Baby. So we'll put you in, and this isn't, I'm putting you in the queue. I'm not going to guarantee we can get to you. We'll see, just as like, this is as time allows. Like, checking for timestamps here on people. I don't even, Legat? Is that how you say that? Lega? Maybe? I don't know. But was that the artist? All right. Oh, nope, that didn't work. Why did that not let me put? Okay, there we go. All right, so we got you next in there. We've got, let me see. I doesn't look like I have anybody post on Twitch, so nothing there. Looks like everything's coming through in Discord. So, all right. No other timestamps to match up. So we're going to put next in the queue after that is going to be Rapid Fire Geek. And again, if we don't get to you, or if you have a deck list later that you want to get looked at, I do have a YouTube membership where you can pretty much do this anytime. It's a form that goes right to my email box. You get personal attention, and we can discuss it, go over stuff, help you out with things. So even more detailed sometimes when I can do on stream because I don't have to be in as much of a hurry. And it helps me out. It gives me a couple bucks for the next month, which is good. And then there looks like you might end up being the last one today, depending on how fast these go, but we'll see. All right. So we got through Sleeveless MTG. Next up will be Meant to Live 218, who posted a list over on Moxfield. My sponsors appreciate that. Thank you so much. And we will export that and we'll bring that into good old Arena. All right, let's see what we got. A Golgari list. At least I've been a variety of stuff today. This is kind of nice. It's like we've had some streams where like 3 or 4 people in a row just had similar ideas and posted stuff, and it was always kind of funny when that happens. Gabriel says, I absolutely love that Narset deck. Thank you. That was a lot of fun. And you're welcome, Sleeveless. I can see my personal brand of jank. All right, well, let's see what it is. So we got Death Bonnet Sprout, Tameo Safekeeping, Go for the Throat, Undead Butler. Oh, yeah, this is just like a graveyard self-mill reanimator kind of pile, right? Okay, cool. This actually isn't that weird, dude. Like, I feel like we do this at least like once a season. Where do I want to start with this? This is, well, one, there's just other cards that are good in this list that, honestly, this feels like you just don't like blue, so you don't want to play blue, which don't get me wrong, I'm not the biggest fan of blue, but there are some blue cards that are good in here. When you're talking about the black creature, this guy, Cruel Somnophage, is basically like a whole other set of Urborg Lurgoyfs. Like, just super good. You know, YouTube does have memberships, actually. If you just go below, you can actually click the button that says join, and that lets you pick your membership level you want to join at. And they have different rewards. It's almost like Patreon built right into YouTube. It's actually pretty cool. All right, so Cruel Somnophage is a card I would really consider. I also like, where was that? This one. We played a version last season that played this card, and it was very good because you can cheaply copy like an Urborg Lurgoyf that's already in the graveyard or a Somnophage that's already in the graveyard. So it's almost like giving you another copy of cards that get these abilities. And then wasn't there the new one that's like, is it like a Graveyard Spirit or something? What is that thing? It's a 2-mana one. This, Souls of the Lost. So you can discard a card or sacrifice a permanent. So you can put something else in the graveyard effectively. Hey, Just Sternba, thank you so much. New member for the channel. Much appreciated. But this also has power and toughness equal to things in the graveyard. And again, it's only 2 mana, which is super sweet. So this is something else to consider. Like, the idea of things like Death Bonnet Sprout are pretty cool. The problem I've run into sometimes, though, is that they take a long time to get where they're trying to go. And while it's neat and it's slowly filling your graveyard, it's just like to even get it to the 3/3, sometimes you're just on the back foot for too long. And you just don't need to be wasting time with that. I don't even think I play like Blanchwood Prowler. This is a non-starter for me in these lists. I see it in a lot of them, but I always tell people, if you see any deck that's reasonable, they're usually not playing these cards because there's just not enough value in it. Terra Sunder, I feel like I was like the first person championing that card, so I wouldn't go against it. Titania, you don't really need 4. 2 is probably a fine number. 3 is okay. 4 is too many. Gloomshrieker, I'm going to tell you why I don't play Gloomshrieker really anymore, other than it being a 2/1, which I didn't like, because you can actually play this dude. Whoop. If I spell it right. This is the one type of deck where I actually played Tyvar and liked it. Because untapping one of your big bodies is almost like giving like a 10/10 vigilance, which is cool. But then you also, all your relevant cards, whether you're talking about that new spirit, whether you're talking about Somnophage, the fairy, Urborg Lurgoyf, they're all 2 mana, right? So you just -2 and get back like a 10/10. And you still have other abilities on the card. Like you obviously can't get back a removal spell or whatever, but that's fine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not that upset about it. Like, it's totally okay. Also, another card you could play if you wanted to, especially if you're going to be milling stuff, is Squirming Emergence. This is just like a cheap reanimator card if you wanted to play something bigger that you could get out of the yard potentially. Like, this is another thing. So, quite a few options available still. Tortoise is fine, fills up the graveyard. Obviously, whoa, wait, we're playing Tortoise and we're not even playing the Restless Cottage. This is the best, like, Restless Cottage is like the best reason to play Tortoise. This thing. You should definitely, if you have them, obviously these are rares, but like, if you have them, you should definitely be playing Restless Cottage. Like, that's a no-brainer in this one. I mean, being able to get that back with the Tortoise and then being able to activate it cheaply and have it be a 5/5, like, bunch of good words that make this totally worthwhile. But yeah, the problem here is I get what you're going for. We're just playing like the inefficient versions of everything. Like, there's a reason you haven't seen Gloomshrieker in a list in a long time. There's a reason you haven't seen Skyfisher in a list in a long time. Like, Skyfisher's totally fine, but you're already playing Terra Sunder and go for the throat, right? Like, you don't really need that. Like, it's a 3/3 body, which is cool, and occasionally some life gain, but like, like, I just really have the versatility of having the instant and put something else sizable in the deck. Because at some point, the issue this version has is you don't have any threats. Like, currently, you have Urborg Lorgoyf, and that's it. Like, nobody's really afraid of anything else in this deck, right? Well, you can get a old Redstein all day, and it's just a 1/4. It makes some other 1/1s every once in a while, but nobody's afraid of that, right? Maybe they kill your Titania if it looks like you're getting close to activating with an Argoth. But, and again, you have Tortoise, so you don't need a bunch of Argoths. You don't need to gum up your lands. You could just play like 2 or 3 because Tortoise can get back 1 anyway. So, I'm not saying it has to be Sultai. I'm saying Sultai does bring other options to the table. But even among what you're playing, like we're saying, that new Souls of the Lost is really good. That could fit into this list perfectly. Tyvar can fit into here. Restless Cottage can be in here. There's just a lot more, a lot more efficient cards that are better at doing what they do than what you're playing. And a matter of fact, for my money, even if you don't want to go totally into Sultai, the what's the guy? Add mana of any color graveyard. This guy. This is one I played in my list too that I actually really like because you get it to a 4/4 pretty easily. So then having another 2 mana 4/4 is now another real threat that you can fight or block with. And on the other side gives you some actual mana. So it actually works out better than a Death Bonnet Sprout because it can block more. Not a lot, but it blocks some 1/1s. It can trade with 2/1s if you need it too early. And then it can also help you get to other things. And honestly, you should probably just be playing Glissa. Like, I know it's boring, but like Glissa's good, Shieldred's good. Like, those are relevant cards. You know what I mean? Because like right now, what are you reanimating with the Virtue of Persistence? If it's not Urborg Lorgoyf, if it doesn't get exiled or whatever, like, you don't even really care to be using this to get anything. You're like hoping your opponent has something to get back right now with this list. So you might as well play some things that are substantial on their own or cause problems for your opponent. You know what, Sergio? I'll say this. I get it. You don't want to craft Shieldreds, but I made a video today that says exactly why you probably need to be crafting those Shieldreds. I think it was like point number 3 in the video. But yeah, but Glissa should be in here, especially even over old Rutstein or whatever. Like, there's just, like, even Undead Butler is neat, but I don't know if you need more than 2 of them. You know, like, it's cool, flip some stuff, put something in your hand. It's like a pseudo thing and fills your graveyard, and that's cool. But I've just never found myself wanting to, like, top deck an Undead Butler after, like, a couple of turns. You know, like, it's neat if you get it early. If you get it late, you almost feel bad about it. My best win with this, I think I reanimated my opponent's creatures and melded to... Exactly, right? So you need to have more threats of your own that matter. So just like quickly looking at it, if I were to do some stuff, I would probably do something like this. Cut these. We can keep the tortoise, get rid of the spiders, get rid of those. Let's play 4 taxidermists. Let's go Souls of the Lost. Put 4 of those in there. I might even go to Tyvar. Like I said, I think it's kind of one of the few places we could use Tyvar and it makes any sense. Obviously, go for Restless Cottage. Clean up the lands a little bit. Deathcap Blades are fine. We could play a full set of those, I suppose. We have to cut some things, so that's now going to be too many lands, right? That's 12, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 4, 25, 26 is probably too many. This is a 25 or 24 land deck, I would guess. Currently has more green than black, so let's go ahead and cut a swamp. Still leaves room for 2 things if we leave all the remaining pieces in there. I think Glissa is probably pretty good. If you want to play 2 of those, and you still don't have to play Shieldred if you don't want to play Shieldred. And at least this feels a little more functional. Like we're doing a little bit more. I don't even know if you need to worry about Tamiyo's safekeeping. Like, I get it. You want to keep your creatures alive. But when you have, like, Undead Butler to try to get stuff back, you've got Tyvar to get stuff back. Like, yeah, you kind of just let some stuff die sometimes. And play some other relevant early thing. I don't know what the other early thing would be. Like, there could be a pile of things, but a 2 mana or 3 mana something. Because right now you at least have a couple of things you can do early, right? You got Urborg Lorgoyf now, you got Taxidermist, you have Undead, but maybe we just play more Undead Butler. I don't know. Since you have Souls of the Lost, it probably works out fine in here. Something like that. Maybe a different removal. Maybe we cut one of those and do that so you can target more creatures early. And then this still gives Gix's command. Honestly, for my money, this Gix's command could probably be Shieldred. Real talk. I don't think it needs to be Gix's command. I mean, there's 1 or 2 decks that you want to wipe out all their like 2 mana things, but like, or 2 power things, but not a lot. I mean, just a couple. Yeah, I keep messing around with the Stalker, Joe, and I haven't found a list I really like it in. But for those who don't know, Stalactite Stalker, it's 1 mana, 1/1, has menace. Beginning your instep, if you descended this turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. You could pay 3, sacrifice it, and then target creature gets -X/-X, that whatever this card's power was when it died. I don't hate the card, to be honest. I just haven't found a spot where I really love the card, I think is my issue. It's been fine, but if we want something to play early, I mean, it's still a thing, and maybe over the first like 3-4 turns, it becomes something. Like, you get an Undead Butler, put a couple things in the yard. Maybe next turn you use a Goyf. Goyf puts a couple things in the yard. You know, you play a Turtle. Turtle puts a couple things in the yard. Then this thing's like a 5/5 or something. But it also takes a long time to get to be a 5/5, right? So, yeah, maybe. If nothing else, it's a blocker. I mean, I could understand. I could make an argument for including that in the list. But like I said, I think Shieldred, probably the easy money here. And have a list that looks something like this. So now you have Souls of the Lost, Undead Butler, Taxidermist, Goyf, Titania, Turtle, that all kind of work toward the graveyard theme. Then you have a couple of cards that are just solid on their own with Glissa and Shieldred. So even if the graveyard thing ain't working out, or they milled your or exiled your graveyard or whatever, you still have some decent removal with Go for the Throat, Tear Asunder, Glissa, sort of, because they don't want to attack into a Glissa, and then Virtue of Persistence. All still relevant, good removal. This feels a little better than where we were, at least. You know, Diagraph Rebirth, the problem is a lot of times you just don't get enough things to trigger it. So you end up just paying a big chunk of mana. But the issue is you don't need to play Diagraph Rebirth in a list like this anymore, because you already have Squirming Emergence, like we talked about earlier. Like, this card's just a better Diagraph Rebirth most of the time, right? If you already have like 4 things, 5 things in the graveyard, like, all your relevant stuff costs 3 or less. So why would you wait for the rebirth? You could just do this. You know what I mean? Like, this is just better. Tyvar returns something anyway that costs 2 or less. So you don't have to wait for your squirm, your what you called? We were just talking about the other card, your rebirth, to be like 3 or 4 mana, right? You can just play Tyvar, get a dude back, and still have an option to do something next turn. So yeah, I think the other options are better. And I think we upped the creature count significantly. So now you have 25 creatures. Now you have a real number of creature threats that actually do things that your opponents are going to be afraid of, which is good. And now we have more threats, right? Now you've got Glissa, you've got Shieldred, you have the Lurgoyf, which you had before, possibly Titania if we get to the later stages, and you have Souls of the Lost. So now you have a pile of things that can be big bodies. Even if your opponent kills 1 or 2 of your early creatures, the next thing's going to be like a 3-4 or 4-5 or whatever, and be a real problem for the opponent to deal with. So yeah, all that I think makes way more sense than where we were. All right, away that one goes. I probably need to do a deck like that at some point, just in Golgari colors, because I think people would enjoy that. All right, double checking the queue and seeing what's in here. We've got Lantern in the queue. I don't know if we're going to get to you or not, friend. But again, if you're at the level 3 YouTube memberships, you can just fill out the form and we can do this on any given day you want when you have time. It goes straight to my email. Checking Twitch, there is nothing. Checking YouTube, there's nobody to add to the queue. All right. Also, by the way, who liked this dumb thumbnail I put together for this stream? Because I would just goof, like the second time I've done that, and people seem to like it, so I might just keep making goofy thumbnails. I don't know. All right, let's see who's next up. We've got Meant to Live 218 is gone. Not gone, but we've covered his deck list already. And then we're going to look at Tall Beard. Let me see if I remember how to export. Oh, yeah, it's right there. Copy for Arena. Why did it not do the thing? Maybe I just copied it. Oh, no, it did. I forgot how their site works. All right. It doesn't give you a whole thing. It gives you like a little thing down in the lower left that says it did what it was supposed to do. All right. Let's do the thing. What do we got here? So we've got Hopeful Initiate, Spyglass Siren, Bunnycorn, Spring-Loaded Saw Blade, Sons. What are we doing? Oh boy. Wow. This boy, I have questions. I have a lot of questions. This feels like it's trying to do a lot of things. A lot of things. I don't know how I feel about it. Okay, first off, let me see if I have a different example to show here. Do I still have this? At one point I had, is this a list? This is close. This is kind of what you're building right now, but the version you're building is way more inefficient, right? This is kind of the same thing. We max out the Spyglass Siren, we max out the Bunnycorns. We're playing a full set of Schooners because that card's good. Wedding Announcement because you get to get a free token every turn. Invasion of Segovia because it makes 2 tokens, and then you can start untapping creatures. But if you get Invasion of Segovia going and you've got Virtue of Loyalty, then you get to tap all your things to cast stuff, then you untap everything and they all get counters. And like, this just does more of what you're trying to do. I get where we're headed with this, but it feels very inefficient. Like, first, there's a lot of 3s that kind of are sort of relying on each other of sorts. And you have to crew this to attack to get the extra 1/1, which is fine. I mean, it's not like it's hard to do. But it does need 2 power, where the Schooner just needs 1 to crew and can possibly, like, it gets the free explore. So I would probably just max the Schooner before. Yeah, I almost feel like if we're going to do this, we should just say to hell with Urza. I mean, Smithy's fine, I guess, because you could. I mean, right now, we just don't have enough artifacts to make the Smithy exciting. I think that's my issue. Because I like Saw Blades. I'd rather just play like a real removal. We could play Get Lost or whatever now, right? We could play Wandering Emperors. We could play whatever. Like, this isn't bad. It's just not great. Yeah, and that's a good question from Daniel, because I'm trying to think, like, what do the turns look like that we're wanting to get, right? Because we're playing these early aggro things, but then we're also playing like Sunset Revelry. So we're almost never in a perfect plan, right? If our deck's doing what it's supposed to do, we're not really ever going to get the 2 counters off of this. Like, maybe a card, because you've played early creatures out and your opponent might be slower, almost never getting the life, right? So this almost becomes 2 mana to draw a card in most instances for this deck, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, right? Because you want to play Spyglass or Initiate, you want to play a Bunny Corn, whatever. And then, okay, I've got this Revelry. What am I doing with it? Right? So you're like, all right, I'll draw a card. That's not really what you want to be doing at sorcery speed with this, right? And this is why the other list are playing stuff like Wedding Announcement, or they're playing Virtue of Loyalty, right? They're just higher impact cards that, one, give you continual value in the case of Wedding Announcement, but the Virtue also gives you something you can do at instant speed, right? So if your opponent sweeps the board or does something, whatever. And for this list particularly, it does produce a 2/2 body. Now, if we wanted to go hard on vehicles, should probably put this in standard because that's important. All right. If we want to go hard on vehicles, there is this dude that just cruise vehicles by himself all the time, right? Which is great. So you could play other vehicles if you wanted to, and this card's actually super fantastic. And it's a 2/1 for 1, which is probably better than the Hopeful Initiate for this list. I think the option to play Mindlink Mech is cool if you have other stuff that has abilities, but right now, really, that would just probably be like a schooner, but you'd have to crew the schooner first to crew that, so it's probably not what you want to do. Like, you don't really get anything. I mean, I guess Bunny Corn, let's see. Becomes a copy target build non-dual. So I mean, I guess it could be a really big creature if you had the Bunny Corn. Oh no, because it's still a 4/3, so it doesn't even, that wouldn't even count. Yeah, so that wouldn't really work, and that's like the next best vehicle. What else could we squeeze in here? Maybe. Actually, Tezzeret's actually not terrible if you had more artifacts. I mean, Unlicensed Hearse is okay against the Reanimator decks because there's like a few of those floating around. So those could be important just to grow a creature. Or Search Hacker Mech, if you're playing enough vehicles, can also just be removal. And that's cool too. I've done that as well, and that works. But yeah, I also don't feel like we're getting that much out of Urza in this list. Like, it makes effectively your instance artifacts, sorceries better, cheaper, but like, how much and what are we really reducing? Right? Because I mean, this is a sorcery anyway, so you're still spending the mana on your turn. Like, you're leaving mana up for a make disappear. Yeah, I feel like we just need to retool some things. And like, I feel like we need to be more focused. I think that's my issue here. Like, I feel like, because we got Chrome Shark, but like, we're also still trying to do these other things where we're trying to play these creatures, and then we have like 2 Bunny Corns, but we're not really making that many permanents until later, right? When like the shark hits, and then we've actually been able to play a couple of spells. So like, I think the problem, I got it now. I see where my frustration is, and not at you, just like thinking about the deck. You're doing 2 things that don't really align, right? There's words that kind of seem like they do, right? Like, where Chrome Chart's like, oh well, we make these extra artifacts, and then that's going to help the Bunny Corn. But the problem is, like, you're not going to have a 4/4/5/5 Bunny Corn until this has been sitting out there for a minute, right? You're not really going to want to be aggressive because you're trying to play like spring-loaded saw blades, you can kill a thing, right? So you can sunset revelry, so you can draw cards, so you can counter a thing, right? This group of spells in the middle are like a control package of things that honestly go okay with the Chrome Shark, honestly. But then you have this other part that's Hopeful Initiate, Spyglass, Bunnycorn, Subterranean Schooner, whatever, right? And that's like an aggro package of things. Cheap spells that are efficient, but have big impact, whatever. These don't mesh well together. So I think we need to figure out, like, are you trying to be, and this is something you have to kind of decide on your own, but like, are you trying to be an aggressive vehicle deck, I guess, or do you want to be an artifact control deck? Because I think you can totally do that with like max out the Smithies, play another Urza, max out your Sunset Revelries, your Saw Blades, maybe play Wandering Emperor. Still can keep the Chrome Host Seed Shark. That's fine. But then you just like cut Schooners, cut Bunnycorns, cut Spyglass, cut Initiate, right? And make room for those other things. Even allows you to where you can play the Mightstone, Weakstone. So then you have the option of flipping to big Urza maybe sometimes, right? That's totally fine. Like, and then you can use that mana to activate your incubators or whatever. So like there's things you could do if you want to go that route. But I don't think these go together is the problem. You almost have half of two different decks smashed together. And I think that's probably where the difficulty is coming into with this list. Because I could see a lot of hands where you get a couple of the control-y pieces and you're holding like a Spyglass Siren or a Hopeful Initiate. And then like the Hopeful Initiate just never gets bigger, right? Because when are you attacking with it? Because you have a 1-2 Initiate, you might have a 1-2 Spyglass Siren, and then that might be all for a bit, right? So it's like, what does that do? Or you get a Siren or Initiate, and then you get the Prodigy's Prototype, but you can't even crew it because they're just 1 power, right? Or you have to tap both of them to be able to crew it. So you have this Prodigy's Prototype, but the only thing realistically that crews it by itself is Bunnycorn. I mean, you know, Siren possibly if you successfully explore or whatever, sure. But just on their face, that's all you have. And you don't really want to use a Chrome Shark to do that because Chrome Shark's just a better blocker as a 2-4, right? Or you can just attack by itself as a 2-power flyer, I guess. So like, yeah, it's an interesting thing. But I think that's the issue. I think you could be more aggressive and do the vehicle thing. And I think that's totally reasonable. I think you can do artifact control-y stuff. That's totally reasonable. But I think you kind of have to pick a side, split this deck in half more than anything else. Sorry I don't have a final list for you, but I think that advice will get you much further, I think, than where you were trying to make this work. Because right now, like I said, the more I looked at it, I'm like, Initiate doesn't even have anything to help boost its power, really. I mean, I just punched in 2 more Bunnycorns, but like, the Sunset Revelry doesn't work with those guys. Like, there's just like a lot of little things there that need to be hammered out, I think. But I hope that helps. Because sometimes just identifying where the issue comes from is the big deal. All right. Again, if you want to have your list submitted, if you're on Facebook or on Twitch, you can give me a link to wherever you host the deck list. If you're on YouTube, if you post it in the Discord, we can possibly get a look at it and get you in there. We will be adding Jester, it looks like, to the queue. Again, I don't know if we're going to get to you or not at this point, but I'm still going to get through at least a couple more. So we'll see. But we still have Jester is now going to be, I believe, number 6 in the queue. 5. Nope, 6. Well, 5, because we're about to do King Baby. Is going to come off the list. Funny thing about King Baby, I don't know if this is where your name originates, but one of the first times I went to Louisiana, I didn't know anything about king cake, right? Nobody told me that king cake was a thing. So I'm just hanging out with some people. You know, we just had like a crawfish boil. We're just eating good, and they bust out this cake, right? So I'm like, cool, I'll eat some cake, whatever. So I bite into this cake, and I felt like I almost broke a tooth. And I'm like, what the hell, right? So I take this thing out of my, and it's like effectively a little baby with a crown, right? I don't know how else to describe it. I think that's what it actually is. And I'm like, oh, what the hell? This thing was in my cake. And then everybody starts like being all happy and celebrating. I'm like, no, like, why are people happy right now? Like, I don't understand. Like, why? And they're like, no, it's supposed to be there. It's a thing of like good luck or something or whatever. I think that's what it is. Or like, I don't know, you're gonna get money the next year or something like that. Like, but something positive because you were the one who I guess magically didn't choke on the baby that was in your cake. So yeah, that's just like a weird thing. I don't. It's a tradition. It's a thing people do. So like, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. See, Twister, that's where I was. I didn't choke, so it felt like I was winning. You know what I mean? Like, but I didn't know any literally before that, I didn't know anything about king cake. I had no idea that was even a thing. Oop, let's see. Let me see if I can copy this. All right, there we go. But yeah, I don't know how many y'all from Louisiana and know anything about king cake, but there you go. There's a weird king cake story. This is so funny. We were just talking about Hot Shot Mechanic, and it's in the very next list somebody submitted. That is amusing. All right, so we have Hot Shot Mechanic, Network Disruptor, Branding Slash, Machiko's Reign of Truth, Spirited Companion, Mobilizer Mech, Subterranean Schooner, Mech Titan Core, blah. All right. See what we're doing? And I got issues. This, y'all. Why do people want to keep doing this? So many people want to keep playing aggro decks and play sweepers. Why? Like, what are we doing? Rapid Fire says he's there in New Orleans. Oh, then you know all about King Cake. Yeah, there's like 2 depopulate, 2 by invitation only when like we're playing Hot Shot Mechanic, Disruptor, Machiko's Reign of Truth. Like, why? These just don't have a spot here, y'all. If I have a word for y'all, please stop doing this. Like, there's so many times these cards are just going to be dead for you. Or ultimately, what's going to happen is you've already emptied your hand. They've done their thing. Like, you wipe the board. Okay, then what? Like, so now you're just top decking your 1/1s against their stuff, which is probably still bigger late in the game because that's what their deck's designed to do. You know what you do? You just chalk it up as a loss and you move on to the next game. That's it. Like, it's not that bad to get the win back and just save yourself time and go into the next thing. Like, that's seriously it. And it's not just you, Sergio. I see this with a lot of people that do this. I see it on the ladder all the time. Like, a matter of fact, I think 2 days ago I played in. I think it was on video. Like, I'm playing against somebody and they randomly mill some cards. I'm like, they're playing like farewell or something. I'm like, why? Why is it even in that list? But now I know there's a farewell, right? So we'll play around some things. I mean, I guess maybe, but it's not like there's that many vehicles in here, really. And we need stuff to still crew the vehicles. Like, that's the other problem, right? So even if we're recovered, like, we still need things to do stuff with. Like, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start by cutting those. I also don't think this deck needs Celestis. It doesn't do anything in it. It's a random artifact, but like, this deck isn't trying to waste time doing that. I don't know if we're trying to waste time on Circuit Menders. Does Zoetic Glyph work on Golem Creature Powers? So it's on any artifact, so that's good. So you can effectively just turn a vehicle into a 5/4 vehicle, which is, I could live with that. Disruptor, I really don't like this card. Like, it's cool on like where I already have the aggressiveness and I'm ahead, and maybe I'm getting in with one of those 5/4s. I don't want to tap something down. But otherwise, this has not been great for me. Yeah, that's fine. Like, there's always going to be scenarios, right? Like, every card we can talk about, like, well, there's sometimes I wish I had whatever. But more often than not, I'd rather just have the things that let my deck do the thing it's trying to do. Oh no, I'm not hating on it. Like, I'm not a big fan, but I get why it's in here. I also don't like banishing Slash unless you're absolutely on a budget. I mean, if given a choice, just play a better removal card that can kill anything whenever. Like, this is obviously like far inferior to Get Lost. Like, yeah, occasionally you're going to make a 2/2 or whatever, but It's sorcery speed. Like, you can't use it as a combat trick. Like, there's just you have to commit your mana early. Like, there's just it's just not as good, honestly. And it only gets rid of tapped creatures, which is the other thing. Because a lot of times it's like, oh, Shieldred's not attacking. Shieldred's just going to sit there. You know what I mean? So, like, Get Lost is just a better option. Wandering Emperor is obviously still really good. March is fine. I don't hate it, but I might just be more of a Surge Hacker mech in this type of build. I would max out Schooners before playing Mobilizer mech. Also, Mobilizer mech requires you to have 3 power to crew it. Now, admittedly, you can get that from the hot shot mechanic, but more often than not, it's going to end up being more difficult to crew this. So I would just play Schooners or play the 4/3, but I don't think you have any abilities to copy that would be worthwhile because these are all ETBs really for the most part. So yeah, that doesn't really help. So probably don't want to do that. But yeah, I would cut these. Just play Get Lost. That card's so good. And the other thing about Get Lost is it produces 2 more artifacts in a pinch if you need it to. So you could actually get rid of, say, like, I don't know, random thing you have to get 2 more artifacts, and then your Machiko's Random Truth can trigger on a flyer to give you those last 2 points sometimes. So there's at least some like corner case quirky things you can do that you can't do with the other spell. Restoration of my Ganjos, it's fine. Like, I get it that occasionally you're going to get back like a Schooner or something, but I would max out Machiko's Reign of Truth. I feel like we've done some type of artifact before the glyph came out. But like, there's something, hold on. Oh, you know what? I know exactly what I'm thinking of. Okay, hold on. There's some things we can do. Like this Urza is solid here if you're gonna be playing all these artifact creatures. Like, that's a thing. Then that makes like the network disruptor better. You could play Tezzeret, which could turn any of these into potential 4/4s. So that could be a thing. Mech Titan Core, let's see, because you gotta get rid of creatures or vehicles. Maybe. Like, the problem with the core is it's a lot of work to get what it gets. Oh, Milky Way Bar says, I watch your videos are in my morning routine to keep up the great work. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's totally a pecker. I've built decks around it. It's fine. It's a quirky card. It doesn't really do much, but like, it's cool. But if you're trying to squeeze room, it's usually the first thing that gets cut, in my experience. There was something. Oh, I was thinking. Hold on. There's the one that has vigilance. Oh, actually, there's a bunch of stuff I'm thinking of now. Like, hold on. Because there's the one, two. Well, there's also Skrelv. That's an artifact. But like this thing, I don't think we'd play 4. I'm just like clicking them over there for a second. There's Skrelv if you want that to protect things. There's the automaton. If you want to do that, because then you have a bunch of other stuff that's artifacts, because I mean, piles at this point. So yeah, we could find things to do with all of this. Zoetic Glyph's good. This is good. Oh, actually, what's his name too? The blue card, the Phyrexian thing, artifacts. Draw. What is this guy? He's a 3 mana, but he's like this. Unctus gives all your artifact creatures +1/+1. And then you can turn something blue, and then if you have a blue creature connected to your opponent, you get to draw a card. So that's actually pretty cool. So yeah, maybe you want to play like a couple of Skrelv, a couple of Lookouts since they fly. What happens if we were to cut Disruptor? I know Spirited Companion draws cards, but I'm just looking at like, what if we cut it? Do we find room for all these other neat things we kind of want to play? Surge Hacker Mac becomes less, so you don't want to get rid of your Get Lost. You want at least 4 of those still. Those Growlf could also make it where you can push stuff through too, where your opponent can't block, which is kind of nice. Obviously, Tranquil Cove. We wouldn't need that anymore. Skybridge Towers would draw a card. However, I think playing Restless, what did we call it in this one? I don't even remember. The blue-white Anchorage. That's what it is. Like some number of those are better because this, again, when you attack, produces an artifact, which is pretty sweet. How many lands are in here? 24. Fairly cheap for the most part, except for these 3 mana ones toward the end and your Urza. Probably could cut one Urza since you have a couple of Unctus in here and Machiko's Reign of Truth to squeeze in another land. So probably another Plains. No, probably another Attic or Waste, actually. This is not a deserted beach deck. You want to be playing faster. This is a fast land deck. You want this. Because you want more things to be untapped early. So, I mean, we got away from doing vehicles, sadly. Yeah, Disruption Protocol is a real card. You could play that here. I'd be totally acceptable playing that. I don't think... The problem is just where does it fit, I think would be the problem. Though we did smash a lot of artifacts in this final list. How many ended up in here? 19? That's not bad. Yeah, maybe it doesn't need Tezzeret. Maybe that's the card that gets cut. So you can play some Disrupting Protocol. Oh, it's Disruption Protocol. Oops. Yeah. Could even play a third, really, by cutting a Schooner, potentially, if you wanted to do that. Again, though, I mean, like, do we need Swooping Lookout? Because we could get away playing... Well, I guess you want to play Lookout if you're playing Automaton. If you choose not to play Automaton, you can go back to playing the pirate that just makes a treasure, or makes a map, and that's fine. Yeah, Seachrome Coast you definitely want, because you want to be earlier. I think Merrick's is fine. I don't know how desperately you need Merrick's if you already are playing Anchorage. This is at least a way that you could draw a card, sometimes two, right? Where we don't have a lot of card drawing left now that we made those changes. Like we have Explore stuff, which could still get cards in your hand, and Unctus occasionally will get you some cards too. But outside of that, they're probably better served having the Roadside Reliquary than having the Merrick's, I think. And then you just attack with Anchorage, which also produces the map. It's probably better. And you don't want too many tapped or colorless lands either, is the other option. So Mech Hanger so we can store our Megazords. Yeah, basically. And I know this isn't where you started. Like, you obviously want to do more with vehicles. But I think if you do want to go vehicles, I think you almost have to just go hard into it. Like, just overcommit to vehicles. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll put some time in and I'll do a vehicle deck on the channel here in a couple of days and see what I can come up with. I think there's room for it, though. But I think this is probably going to be better for you. Unless you want to go, you could go the fancy 61 cards if you wanted to and play another Disruption Protocol. Like, I think that would be reasonable if you want to do that, because you'll see 8, 12, 16 blue lands. Yeah, you could pull that off if you wanted to. Play a third one, something like that. But now you have Skrelv that can protect stuff. You have Swooping Lookout that's a vigilant flyer. You maxed out your Machiko's Reign of Truth. You still have Schooners. And all those artifact creatures get bigger from Unctus. They get bigger from Urza. And you have Zoetic Glyph, which you still had before. And now Patchwork Automaton could be another big body that's hard for your opponents to remove already. And you have Skrelv to back it up a little bit. So a little bit of extra value, hard for mono red to deal with a little bit more because they have to kill their Skrelv or they don't punch through a lot of times. Like Patchwork Automaton, even if it gets to a 2-2 or 3-3, is sometimes hard for them to deal with. You still have Hotshot Mech, which is still a quality 2-1 for 1, which happens to be an artifact, checks a lot of boxes. And then you have just some ways to make your creatures bigger. So probably, this is definitely more aggressive than the list you had before. But I think I'd probably be more likely to go down this road and just have a cleaner list. But like I said, they're probably something we done with vehicles, but for me to give like good feedback, I'm probably gonna have to spend a lot more time messing with it. Because I think the hardest thing would be trying to find the balance of where I'm able to play early and still have blockers, so I'm not overcommitting all the time. Otherwise, you end up not being able to attack in a lot of scenarios because you're technically tapping two creatures, right? Because you have to crew and then you're attacking with the vehicle. So you're almost better served to block sometimes. And then, like, if that's the case, what does the deck look like? Being more defensive versus, like, do I just play the vehicles that are also like making tokens and things and trying to supplement it that way? So I think there's a little bit more to think about other than just like jamming these parts together. How often do streams like this happen? Not very often. This is something I've been doing like once a month recently, but not even that frequently overall. Like I said, this is something I generally offer as a membership level. So if you ever just want help, you can just sign up to my third level of my YouTube memberships, fill out a thing, it goes right to my email, and I'll help you out, usually within about 24, 48 hours. I just need time to see it when it comes through. But otherwise, yeah, this is just kind of a random thing we're doing. Usually I'm streaming, I'm talking about something or showing off something new or whatever, whenever I'm doing streams these days. But yeah, all right. Let's hop in. That was King Baby. Do we have anybody else that's attempting to be added to the queue? Looks like no. Nobody on Twitch. Nobody. I mean, we have people, but nobody that's adding anything on Facebook either. All right, cool. So the queue is what it is. This, as it stands currently, we still have 5 in the queue. I don't know if we're gonna get to everybody, but we'll have 4 after this person, and we'll see what's up. This is going to be for Lagat or Lagat. I don't know what the proper pronunciation is, though. Saying Lagat makes it sound fancy. Makes it family is it's got some. It comes from money. All right, let's go over here. By the way, how many of y'all play fantasy football? I am currently in the playoffs in either the round of 4 or the finals in, gotta go look, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. So not bad, 4 out of 7. But man, one of them was miserable for me this season. Like, I had games where literally I was up 80% chance to win, and then my opponent had like crazy stuff happen and beat me. It was crazy. All right, let's take a look at this list. So, Lagat, what do we got here? We've got Lunark Veterans. We have Skrelv, Kellen, Malevolent Hermit, Zephyr. Wow, what are we doing? And we're kind of, okay, this is humans, right? Okay, no, maybe. It's humans with Skrelv. All right, got it. With an Acolyte. This guy's getting fired. I don't even care what the rest of the deck list is. Kite Cell, Larcenist, Adam Picard. Yeah, this, here's what I'm going to say about this list. By trying to go 4 colors, we've just kind of limited our numbers on the good cards. You know, I feel like if this is any comment, like you're obviously going to want white in the list. So I feel like you're either Naya going white, green, red, or you're Jeskai going white, blue, red, or I guess maybe there's a world where you want to be Bant and go white, blue, green. But I don't think there's enough benefit to play all 3 colors. I mean, all 4 colors. Because squeezing in all of these, you're playing less Scoundrels. You're playing less NTs. I mean, this guy just, meh. Just this card for the mana cost is so much worse than ever. Like, it could be another Anapakal. It could be an Adeline. It could be where you're playing almost all humans. So, I mean, it could be a Brutal Cathar. It could be a bunch of things, right? There's so many 3-mana things that are just outright better than this card. Like, it's just not good. And I'm gonna assume this is just 4 colors. We're not really, like, Urtai's fine, but we ain't really playing Urtai. Like, it's just here to be here. Because here's the real thing. Like, if you really are gonna go 5 colors, then we just need to go all the way and I mean all the way, and just bring in the big man. Like, no point in going halfway, right? If we're going to go and we're going to play 5 colors, we're going to play humans, then let's just go legendary humans and just let's do it. Right? Like, otherwise, what are we doing? Right? You know what I mean? Like, otherwise, we're kind of just goofing around, right? Like, we could just go hard and go, okay, let's just play all the legendary humans and let's just get it. Because there's enough of them, right? If we go in and just put, I mean, we've got Kellen, Thalia, Adeline, all worth playing. We also have, who do we play in blue? Oh, we could play Rona is a human. Totally reasonable if you want a way to draw cards. We've got, not any of the black ones, really. I don't think those even qualify. Unless you just want to play one Ashnod, so you can flip into it with Joda, but probably not. Godric, not so exciting, but you can play Feldon. You can play another copy of Inti. I actually forget that Metal Brow is an actual magic card. Green ones, you don't really get much in the way of humans. But obviously, you play Dinnik, because Dinnik is a great card, just in general. It happens to be a human. Probably not playing any of the others there. Oh, wait, actually. This is actually cute. If you're in 5 colors, you could play a couple of those. Could protect your humans. That's not bad. We can go back to playing a couple of Urtai. But yeah, there's plenty we could squeeze in here if we wanted to do that. And just go hard on the humans. Trying to think. Oh yeah, Ruby works. That's fine. Also, Baird, if we're playing stuff that pumps our other humans, I think that's reasonable. You could play Helena Elena, those are humans. So, like, if you want to do the 4 color humans, obviously go up to an extra copy of Catilda. But, oh, actually, this is good too. Malira could make the cut. Yeah, I think if we're in 5 colors, like, there's just better things we could be doing, I think. So, what I would say for this list. Oh, also Inga and Eska. I think people forget this is a human. This is really good. We're trying to do 5 colors and occasionally just get to draw cards with it. And it's a 4/4 body. Like, this card's actually kind of interesting if you wanted to go down that road. And you play another Lagrella because obviously it's a way to remove creatures. But oh, and actually Shauna's still good too. So that's a thing. So yeah, there's choices, right? If we want to do humans. But I think as it is, the best advice I could give for this list is either commit to doing 5 colors and take advantage of having 5 colors, right? Because right now you were playing 5 colors, but you're not doing much, if that makes sense, right? Like, you're not getting the advantage. You're not doing the biggest things you could do for playing 5 colors. You're not even playing all the best cards you could play for playing 5 colors. You're kind of just doing it. So I would either decide, all right, I'm going to bite the bullet and I'm going to go full on Legends, 5 colors, and just try to hit hard and fast and come over the top with Joda, or figure out which 3 of these colors you want to play the most and then build around that. And I think those are going to be your better options. And then also maximize your Cavern of Souls, maximize your Skuta Courtyards, because you're going to have almost all humans. So might as well take advantage of it and make it hard to counter them. But that would be my biggest advice overall. Like, because, like, well, Malevolent Hermit, that's cool. It can counter some stuff, make your opponent pay more. But then you have to leave blue mana open as well. So now you have to have extra lands that can make blue that, unfortunately, things like Cavern of Souls, Secluded Courtyard are not going to do because they work for just... Well, actually, that's not true. Secluded Courtyard will at least let you activate for creatures of that type. So you can at least use that, but you can't use Cavern of Souls for that. But if you just play Thalia, Thalia just says, okay, now everything they play costs 1 more that's not a creature. So that way, even if they're, like, it's something you don't really want them to have, but you also don't want to waste your Malevolent Hermit to counter, it's like it still slows your opponent down. So, like I said, we kind of just leaned into some inferior cards to kind of make this work when we didn't really have to. So I would say go back, figure out which 3 color sets you want to go with, or go all in on doing legendary humans. And there's a bunch of good ways to do it. I mean, we've played Anaya humans on the channel already, I think. We've played legendary Boros humans, actually, and that was fine. So there's a lot of ways you can build humans right now. I just think you need to streamline it because right now there's just a lot going on. Like if you think about it, Catilda doesn't even do much for this list because if you have a bunch of different color things, then you're not really going to have like the right mana. Like if you have Catilda and a Lunarch veteran early, well, that doesn't make it easier for you to cast like Animpakal or Lagrella, right? Because they can only tap from out of their color. Or in some cases, you don't really have anything to spend mana on, right? Because everything's super cheap. So except for a roaming throne, I mean, you have Knight Errant Avios, but this isn't really a Knight Errant Avios deck, right? If you're playing 5 colors, you should just be hammering it, right? Doing the best things you can do, the most efficient things you can do. Like this deck should be looking to go like veteran, maybe sometimes into Kellen or Thalia or something, or maybe even a turn 2 Inti into an Animpakal, attack with something, put a counter on it from Inti, whatever, maybe draw a card. Cool. Then you play whatever the next big thing is behind it, right? And just keep that pressure up. Like that's what this deck should be looking to do with the power of cards it has available. But right now, the mix is kind of all over the place. So you're not really maximizing everything that's there. Because like Zephyr Sentinel kind of doesn't want you to attack. You kind of want to be able to block and do quirky things and bounce something, right? Like with an Acolyte's just not a good card compared to everything else. Like Kite Saw Larcenist is fine, get something out of the way, but it's a 3 mana, 2/3 flyer, which is fine, and it can eliminate a threat, I suppose. But realistically, you'd rather that just be like another Adeline or Animpakal or Brutal Cathar or whatever, right? Just gets something out of the way efficiently and has more upside even after it's in there, is what I would say. So, sure, Catilda could cast Throne on 3, but then what are you doing with it? I mean, what's the Throne doing? Right? You've turn 1, maybe Skrelv, maybe Veteran, turn 2, Catilda, turn 3, Throne. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just like, it's cool. Maybe you have Animpakal after that. You get 2 tokens when you attack with the Throne, but they're probably not getting through because your opponent didn't attack into your Throne, so their creatures are there just blocking. So, like, roaming Throne on 3 doesn't really do much a lot of the time because you still need something else to trigger it to satisfy having it to make it worthwhile. So yeah, just some things to think about. But I would that's my overall advice for this deck. Figure out which 3 color combination you want to go with. Look at those lists, see how you feel about it. Maybe what cards you already own, whatever. And look at like, let's just go legendary 5 color, right? Because you have the lands. The lands aren't the problem. Like you can play 4x Plaza, 4x Cavern, 4x Courtyard. That's going to solve a big chunk of your problems. You could supplement it with Catilda, play some cheap things, play a bunch of stuff that doesn't require more than 1 of each color in its casting costs. You can fill that out pretty easy. All right. Let me just put a random card in there so it stays near the top so I can delete those later. Though I need to add that to my list too. I haven't done legendary humans this season. All right. We have 3 people left in the queue. I don't know if we're going to get to everyone, but Rapid Geek is up next. So let's see what we got. And again, if we don't get to you or you want to submit it, I do have a membership level on YouTube. You can go there. My 3rd level just has a form. You fill it out. It goes right to my email. I'll help you out with your deck list. No problem. Also, you can go to the Discord, and the community at large is always helping people with decks as well. So if you want to come in there, be part of conversations. If I have time, I will get around and I will pitch in periodically on conversations, but the community is always helping people and responding pretty much all hours of the night, it seems like, because we have people all over. Lands are your problem because your deck is paper standard. That is reasonable. That is reasonable. Oh, Joe Yeoman 5 likes the thumbnail. Yeah, I started doing some goofy stuff with these streams with the thumbnails. The last one I was a doctor because we were doing a deck doctor. This time I was helping people's brews, so I was a dude in the kitchen. So I don't know. I'm just goofing around too much. I don't need to be left unsupervised. That's the problem. All right, what do we got here? Who do we say this was for? This is Rapid Geek. All right, this is your list. So we've got Cut Downs, Cavern Bats, Go for the Throat, Adeline, Wedding Announcement, Braids, Gix. Yeah, this is just a deck. Like this is exactly the stuff we don't want to see on here. Like I want to see the quirky things people are trying. When people are doing this is just a pile of good cards. I mean, I think it still probably needs more stuff on the cheap end. I think you're a little heavy on the upper end, just for some advice. But you are playing Virtual Loyalty, what kind of counts as a 2-mana creature. So that's all good. But there's a lot of 3s and 4s in this list. That's the only thing I'd be concerned about. But otherwise, yeah, this is fine. It's just the pile of good cards. Like, I mean, this is exactly why like I don't enjoy doing these on brew streams. Like if we're talking about like honing in a tournament deck or whatever, and you're preparing for an event, and there's a metagame thing you're concerned about, like yeah, then we could talk about stuff on this deck. But like this is just. I mean, I don't want to be that guy. I want to be terrible, but it's like it's just a pile of good cards. Like these are the cards everybody's playing with. We see this all the time. The deck's not trying to do anything. And it's not just like because it's good cards, but they're not doing anything different or new, right? We're just removing some creatures, playing good cards like the Virtues, playing Shieldred, playing Lord Skitter, playing Liliana. Like this is just a black-white mid-range deck. It's probably good. You probably win a fair amount of games. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. You know, I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. It's a fine deck. But that's kind of it. The main mechanic was Braids and Gix. These don't really go together, though. Like, you can have Braids and Gix, but Braids plus Gix isn't really a thing. Like, either of those plus Lord Skitter is a thing, and either of those plus Wedding Announcement is kind of a thing, or Adeline, I guess. But I'm not even sure I really like Adeline in the list because it's like I play Cavern Bat and then maybe I play Adeline and that's the advantage. But just max out your Wedding Announcement and play another Braids. There you go. I gave you some advice. That's probably more. I was going to say more efficient and better for this. I don't know. It's 61 cards now, so I'd have to look at it. But something closer to this is probably just better. This is going to be taken the wrong way, and so please take this with a grain of salt. I'm not saying this to be mean or whatever, but this isn't really what I would call a brew. This is just literally black-white mid-range, as you would like. We're all going to run into some version of this on the ladder if we play like 20, 30 games this week, right? There will be some things, maybe plus or minus like 4 or 5 cards, but there's going to be some version of this. It'll either be mono black or it'll be splashing just for like Virtues and Wedding Announcements and maybe Get Lost or whatever instead of Wandering Emperor. But like there's going to be versions of this. I don't even think this needs the other Shieldred, actually. That's just kind of wasted. You've already got Cut Down, Go for the Throat, Bat stealing something. Maybe they're sacrificing something to Braids. You've got Virtues. Like you don't really need that. There you go. 60 cards. And it's probably cleaner than it was. So I would go with this. But yeah, that's really it. There's not a lot to say otherwise. It's just it already has 2 Emperors in there, and I probably wouldn't even play Emperor because it's too white to leave, but it's a good card. I mean, it's fine. But yeah, that's just kind of what it is. It's already a solid deck. Like I think if you ask yourself if it's a brew, the real question should be, what are you trying to make work that you either truly haven't seen or that often struggles to work? And I don't think there's anything in that list that I've not seen anywhere. There's no cards that people aren't playing. There aren't any combos that people aren't using. And there's nothing in there that I would see struggling to work, right? They all are doing the thing they're trying to do very easily, even independently. So I think that would be the biggest thing. Maisie Dubrazy, at this point, I would say join my memberships. 3rd level has a thing that lets you just send me an email to get deck help, or you could just in the description, there's also a link to my Discord. You can hop in my standard chat, and people will help you with your deck list in there as well if you want to do that. And getting in my Discord is free. All right, this is for Vaer, Vaer. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Let's see what you got. This is mono black. This is not a good start. Okay, here we go. We're at least trying. Oh, what? There's a lot of word Phyrexian in this list. All right, so we have Bilious Gold Dweller, which is Toxic Death Touch. We have a Cut Down, Ichor Drinker, which we saw in an earlier list. Go for the Throat, Grafted Butcher, Bloated. Okay, so this is mono black Phyrexians. Is that what we're trying to do here? I hate that it does this. Gives me like the weird Phyrexian Obliterator split. Shieldred. Okay. I don't know if, I mean, Bilious Dweller, I guess, is fine-ish. At Death Touch, it can kill something early. Yeah, there's really not much to say about this. I mean, Gurgling a Noiter, I don't really care for. I mean, oh, I guess I only own the other two arenas. That's neat. Didn't know that. I mean, I get what you're trying to do, but you don't really need that guy. Like that's trying too hard. You can put 2 more of something. You could either play more 1-mana duders that actually have more value. Other removals. You could play Liliana. But yeah, there's really not a lot to add to this. This is really just mono black swapping out a few creatures because Obliterator, Shieldred, Flesh Gorger are all decent cards that just happen to be Phyrexians. You know, and then you get to play Grafted Butcher with them. Yeah, Gix is probably reasonable. I think the concern would be Gix and Phyrexian Arena, I think is a bit much. I don't think you want to go too heavy down that road. There is an argument to like, what's the other guy? This one. You could go more here if you wanted to, since it turns into a Phyrexian. I mean, get some extra value that way. It also works with Shieldred. But yeah, that's probably it. I mean, there's not much else to be said or done about this. I mean, I don't think there's any other Phyrexians except for maybe the Vampire, Vran. That could be worth considering in mono black. Because I think Vran's a Phyrexian. Is Vran not a Phyrexian? Oh, it is. Just like it's on a later page. Yeah, so you could play a couple of these. So then when creatures die, you get a bonus. So you could maybe kill them with like Bloated Processor or something. Like that's viable if you want to go down that road. Maybe do something like cut a couple of Ichor Drinker. Actually, of these, Ichor Drinker is probably the weakest. I mean, it does get you 1 point of lifelink, and it can turn into a creature, possibly. But like, I'd be okay living without it for more value. And maybe either up the sleeper or up the dweller. But something like this. I mean, don't really have... I mean, I guess, I don't know. You still have a fair amount of removal plus Death Touch creatures. So that's probably fine. I wouldn't sweat that too much. Cavernous Souls... That's Phyrexian, right? There is a world where you could play... this thing? Like, and occasionally get a little extra bonus? I mean, the reason I probably would stay away from this, though, I don't know. Like, you don't have that many things that... I mean, I guess it would suck if you had, like, that and a cavern and a swamp and, like, you couldn't cast the Phyrexian Arena. Yeah, I'd just go, like, 4 up on caverns, probably. Like, just... And honestly, you probably could cut one of either Obliterator or Shieldred to go to at least a 23rd land. Like, this... You're going to need more than 22 lands. Like, some way, shape, or form, you got to get to more than 22 lands. Like, something's got to give. And I get it. You may draw into some with arenas and stuff like that. But I think you need a little bit more. Just because, like, that'll leave you mana to activate Sleeper. Maybe you want to cast a thing, but leave mana up for a cut down. You know, stuff like that. So I think that's a little bit better. 4 black mana flyer. That's true. You could do that. I mean, I don't even know if we need more than 2 arenas, being real. But like you could cut a processor. I'm just trying to look like where can we squeeze points to like not go crazy here. Flesh Gorger, maybe. The problem is then we have a bunch of things that are 4 mana, and that's not a great filling either. But what if we did that and what is that guy? What is he? He's flying. He's a 6/6. He removes a counter. Why did I forget that guy's name? This Archfiend. There we go. And then add a land. So now you're at 24, which feels a little bit better. And I don't know, maybe you up the Skull Dweller or the Evolve Sleeper or something. Maybe. Like I'm trying to like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out like we're in this like we're kind of in the weeds now. All right, there we go. Something like that. Maybe. I mean the problem that's a lot of things that cost like 4 mana though. It's 10 things that cost 4, and you're only at 24 lands. So like that's a little tough, but it's closer. I think it's going to be a little land light. This is one where I'd probably even go to a 25th land and just play 61 cards. But this just feels cleaner. Your creatures matter more. You have bigger threats. You can drain your opponent periodically with just like Executioner. We all have played against Evolve Sleeper and know that could be a problem for people. So it's like, yeah, just more value all the way around. But yeah, that one's not too bad. That one was basically, like I said, that felt like we were just building mono black, but with like 8 or 9 different cards. Just a bunch of good mono black cards happen to be Phyrexians. All right, we have 2 in the queue, and that may wrap things up. We'll see. I'm just going to try to get to them since they're already there. Exports. Let's go here. And this is for Lantern. It's your turn. Never play 61? Ha! I play 61 all the time. You're definitely in the wrong place, Voltmat. Maisie Too Brazy, no. We do not take any links anymore at this point. We are already at the end of the queue. Again, if you want to post stuff, feel free to go into my Discord. You can go to the standard channel, and you can get deck help there if you want to post something, have it looked at, or you could join my YouTube memberships, 3rd level. It'll send something directly to my email. Those are the two ways to participate at this point. Mana base is wonky, so avert your eyes. Got it. All right. Helping Hand makes its 2nd appearance in a list today. Hotshot Mechanic, Fleeting Spirits, Bitter Triumph, Infernal Grass, Thrill of Possibility, Mech Time. What are we doing, my friend? Okay, Greasefang. But what are we trying to Greasefang? Like, Belligerent? I mean, Surge Hacker Mech's cool, I guess, if we can get, yeah, there's just, this is, wow. Thoughts and things. Like, there's so much going on here. I don't even know where consistency is going to come from. I think is the issue. Boy. I mean, I like hotshot mechanics. At least that is going to give you some easy ways to crew these boats. So I'm kind of into it. I mean, Aster technically is going to be able to find some equipment. I mean, some vehicles off the top, but like, is this the 4/4 body? Is the 4 mana thing we want? I don't know if this is true or not. I mean, legitly, I have no idea. Because like having your vehicles crew for one doesn't greatly matter, considering the only things we won't really be able to crew with, for the most part, are Thran Spider, right? Because Mech Shot or Mechanic can crew as though he's a 4 effectively. This is already 3. So like his ability is literally be a 4/4, hopefully find the vehicle we want off the top of the deck, right? Is that good? And it might be good enough. I don't know. I think that's the question I would have to figure out. Is like, is that good enough in and of itself to even make the cut? Right? I don't know if that's true. So that's my first concern. Thundersteel Colossus, cute, but I'm probably not playing this. Mostly because if it's not in the graveyard and we have a Greasefang, we're not often going to want to draw this card. Right? It's just not a thing we're going to want. So I'd rather just pass on it and find something to help with consistency. So yeah, but like just like that's part of the problem, right? If I'm just looking for something to just pitch something, then why is this not just more like Thrill of Possibilities? Because then I can just get more cards anyway. And if I have one in my hand already, I can just pitch it to the next one or something, right? Like, and again, that might be wrong logic. Like, Aster might be the right card for that. I don't know, but it just feels like it's really saying, let me look at the top 7 and get a vehicle, which might be good enough, legitly. It for real might be. But I almost feel like his other relevant abilities don't do anything in the list because we're not playing any equipment, and the vehicles effectively can all be crewed by everything in the deck anyway. I get why we're playing Bitter Triumph and Thrill Possibility because we're leaning on Greasefang pretty hard. And then we do have Helping Hand that can get some stuff back out. My concern with the Helping Hand, though, is like we can't really get the vehicles because we're not playing stuff like Schooner or whatever, right? So if we don't have Greasefang, all these kind of expensive duders aren't going to do much. Reality Heist? I don't remember what that card does. Spell cost 1 less cast for each artifact you control. Look at the top 7. You reveal 2 artifacts. Among them, put them in your hand. Nah, I don't want to play this either. Like, there's too many times this is still going to cost like 4 or 5. And just, I mean, it's an instant, which is cool. And you get 2 things in your hand, which is kind of nice. But yeah, I don't think this. Plus, it's the color that you're playing the least of, right? We're splashing a hint of black. We're splashing a hint of blue. So then, like, I don't think you want this card either. Because then your mana has to change to supplement this. Right? Playing mech hangers. So we can have any mana for vehicles. Ooh, boy. Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff here. Like, I'm not, like... Fleeting Spirits. Does this really do anything? I mean, I guess it comes back from the graveyard. Well, it just gains first strike. It doesn't come back. It can be exiled. You can discard to put stuff in the yard, I guess. But again, this feels like we're just leaning hard on Greasefang. I mean, I guess some situations we could discard and then play like Helping Hand to get a thing back. But it's like, could we have, like, okay, here's a thought exercise. And this is how I think about a lot of cards. When people say, oh, but it draws a card. I'm like, yeah, but could it just be that card? Right? Like, sure, it draws another card, but if it just replaces itself, could I just have that be another potential thing that would be a threat right then? And I sort of feel like that in this list. Like, let's say I discard, I don't know, I'm trying to think, like, what can I get back with a Helping Hand in this list? I don't know, a Thran Spider, right? And then I use Helping Hand to get the Thran Spider back. Like, that's kind of cool because it only cost me 1 to get the Thran Spider. But if I discarded just whatever card the Helping Hand would be, can I just cast the spider that turn anyway? right? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's only 3 mana, so, like, if I already have the Fleeting Spirit like, now there will be scenarios where obviously you have, like, 3 mana, you use 2 for a Bitter Triumph, and then you use the Helping Hand to get back to Spider. So, like, I get what we're doing. But we don't have a lot of great things to get back with Helping Hand either. It's Mechanic, Fleeting Spirit, Mech Titan Core. Well, technically, it's not really a creature, it's a vehicle. So, and get Spider. So, we don't even have like a lot of options we can get with the Helping Hand. I think is part of the problem. I think that's why I'm less excited. Like, the only thing we're really doing with the graveyard is Greasefang. And if we don't have Greasefang, it feels like we're not doing much. So, I feel like we need more things that do stuff on their own and happen to play Greasefang. I think would be the idea here. So for me, that would look like probably again, because you don't want to get rid of like everything that puts stuff in the yard, or else you lose any of your advantage from the Greasefang is the problem. But like Thran Spider probably goes, Thriller Possibility probably goes. Keep the Fleeting Spirit and the Bitter Triumph. Probably get rid of Belligerence. The Surge Hacker mechs are fine. Galleon's fine. Lauren, I don't really get. Like, she doesn't help us discard, she just helps us draw cards, which is fine, but also your opponent's getting to draw, so they have more options to deal with your few threats that you have. Yeah, I get where we're going with this, but I don't. This is one of those ones where I think you are trying to make fetch happen. You know, I think that's the issue. Yeah, Inti is a reasonable argument. I mean, that's totally fair. Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to get at too, Landon. I was just about to say that. Like, if you are already down that road, it's just like, okay, are there better cards I could just play, right? And that starts to become like the real issue. Enchantment Hate, you could just play Get Lost, right? It's a catch-all, right? Even over you don't even have to play Infernal Grasp. You're already playing more white, so Get Lost just makes more sense, right? Same thing with Lorn. You can cut Lorn and your Infernal Grasp and just play 3 Get Lost. Now, Lauren can also occasionally crew a vehicle, and I get all that, but I mean, but maybe there is a world where it's like, let's mess around a little bit here. Let's say we cut Lauren's and we go Get Lost, and then maybe the problem is Helping Hand just doesn't do enough here for me to want to keep it in the list. I think that's I'm willing to cut it at this point. I'm just looking at going like at most, the best thing I'm going to get back is probably like a Thran Spider, which isn't bad. Don't get me wrong. It's not like that's trash, but it's just not like the exciting card I'd want to get back. You know what I mean? I already have Fleeting Spirit, Bitter Triumph. This does let me draw cards. We don't have a bunch of ways to do that. So I'm kind of down with leaving it in the list. I think let's take a look at vehicles and just see what's available. Because maybe that's part of the problem. There's not a lot of great ones in white, red, and colorless. I mean, I do like Magmatic Galleon, but we're already playing 2, and I don't think we can play many more. Though, if we max out spiders, it does become a lot easier to cast those. So that could be something to consider. Like, if we went 4 spider, now just outright casting these vehicles becomes a lot easier, and we have more things to crew them. So that's kind of nice. Still don't know how I feel about Mech Titan Core. And I might even go like a couple of Inties instead, since those are just more significant. Still another way to put stuff in the graveyard. Still have 7 clean removal cards. Hot Shot Mechanics to crew stuff. Fleeting Spirits. Still have Mech Hangers. Lands obviously need to be cleaned up. I'm not going to mess with that too much right now. So maybe something closer to this? Like, because now the spider on 3, you get an artifact, and then you can use that to cast like a Magmatic Galleon even the next turn if you already have 2 red lands. or 2 lands that can cast the vehicle. So like maybe there's something there. I could be talked into that a little bit. Also, what I like about Inti as a little bonus in this list is it can turn your 2 or 3 power things into 1 more to make it easier to crew the vehicles too, which is actually kind of nice. So I like that option too. And then you still have Aster, so you can still find stuff. Belligerent. If there's anything, I mean, at least Belligerent could, in a way, help you find Greasefang, I guess. Yeah, but this feels at least cleaner. Like, this feels like we're doing a little more. We don't have as many dead cards. Like, you still have ways to discard stuff to use with Greasefang if you want to. Spiders are still reasonable, can help you find other things. Yeah. And 2/4s are actually reasonable against like mono red, even in a lot of cases. So that helps there too. So yeah, I could be talked into something like this. This is a little bit better, I think, than where we started. Again, lands. This is a whole lot of mess. I don't know what we got to do. There's a lot that has to be figured out, but mess around with that. Only thing I would say is try to minimize the number of tap lands you have, because you need lands that will come into play untapped on turn 4 or turn 5, right? Because you're going to need to be able to cast these vehicles or Aster or whatever on turn 4 like all the time. So you're going to need to minimize the number of lands you have that always come into play tapped. That's tough because I do like some of these creature lands, but you know, decision you got to make. But Restless Fence does let you discard a card too, so something to think about. However, problem is it's not white, and that's the thing you have the most of, right? You have 17 white and 10 red. So you would just want to prioritize the white and red lands and then splashing whatever you need to for Greasefang. We just can't. There's just not enough. Like Belligerent, you're getting away with it a little bit because you have mech hangers and stuff you can play. But I think if you go Belligerent and you play Schooner, then you have to start finding ways to like hard code blue lands into the deck, or else it's going to start being a real problem. All right. And then the last one in our queue is going to be Jester. So we'll take a look at Jester's list here and see what we got. We have, let's see, export this to Arena. Man, it's crazy. When I get on StreamYard and I realize I get done, I've already been on like 2-3 hours. I'm just like, wow. It didn't seem like it. All right. Did we load it? Okay, there we go. It must be down at the bottom somewhere then. I must be missing some cards that are in this list. Okay. Oh, it's another Millennial Counter. All right. So a Millennial Counter list. Yeah, this is just like all the Millennial Counter decks we've already seen. Yeah, there's nothing to do here. Like, awesome, but there's really not much to do here. This is just Millennial Calendar playing stuff that gets counters with all will be one. I mean, it's literally just Boros control playing Millennial Counter. Like, yeah, that's again, fine deck, probably wins, but I mean, it's good card removal with Get Lost, Depopulate, Sunfall. Try to play your all be one, get counters on things with like Wandering Emperor or Brass Forge and Millennial Calendar and kill your opponent. There's really not. I mean, is there something particular we were struggling with that we need to fix with this? But this isn't really what I would call a brew. This kind of falls in that same thing of what we were talking about earlier. Like, are there cards doing something different than what we normally see them do? Or is there a combination of cards that's unique that you're struggling with? Here, I think the first week where the set came out, like 20 different creators made Millennium Calendar decks, and they all had some version of this. It was either that or it was the hardcore blue-white control that happened to just play Millennial Calendar as the win condition. So I just never made one, because I already saw all the other ones, and I was like, well, I mean, I guess I probably will do one by the end of the season just because to check it off, but I just wasn't in a hurry because I'd already seen a bunch of other people do it. But they all look like some version of this. I think you could still max out some things if you wanted to. Like, I don't know, do you need the Brotherhoods in if you're already playing Depopulates and Sunfalls or whatever? Like, Probably not, but it's not. I mean, you're already playing. Like, if you cut Brotherhoods in, you could just play a fourth Revelry, a fourth Wedding Announcements, a fourth Get Lost, right? And that solves part of your problem better than where you were. So I would just do this. Because I mean, if you get rid of an early creature or two, you block a couple early things, then you're going to get to your depopulate, sunfalls, whatever. Anyway, it's only because most Millennium Calendars decks lean on to the calendar and wanted something that plays an alternate. That's literally it's either hardcore blue white control the calendar, or it's red white or red white splash with all will be one in calendar. Right. So yeah, this is literally like as soon as I got like halfway on the list, I went, oh yeah, we've seen this. Like, I don't know if I'd play like so many Iron Crags. I don't know if that's necessary, but I mean, fast mana to make sure you can cast Depopulate early, cast Wandering. Like, that's all fine. There's nothing wrong with any of it. But yeah, again, don't think it's a bad deck. It probably does what it's supposed to. Probably wins a fair amount of games. I'd probably play like another land, so I could see like cutting one of the mana artifacts, maybe an Iron Crag to play another land just for consistency's sake. But that's probably about it. Munching for Section and Tribal for next time. Hey, that's fine. Again, you can post it in the Discord. So if you just want to get help, chat about weird, quirky things, like the Discord's open. Like, y'all can go in there into the standard channel and people talk about and post stuff all the time. Like, literally pretty much every day, people are talking about decks or doing something. It's very, very common in there. And then, like I said, if you just have something you want to have like your personal deck concierge, if you will, then my third level on YouTube has a form. You just literally quickly fill it out with just like your name, username, and a link to your deck and what you're trying to fix about it. And then I'll give you a reply and what I think about the deck. And if it comes to me and I like it, I might feature it on the YouTube channel. So there's a chance to get your deck featured that way, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that's it. I think those are all the ones we're going to cover today. That was a lot. What did we get through? Like 10 or 12 decks, it felt like. So, like, we did quite a few. I wasn't sure if there were going to be that many since we kind of just did this on a whim. But yeah, I think if there's a piece of advice, though, I could give everybody for deck building is, while sometimes cards may have the same words or similar words that look like they go together, stop and think about how the card functions. That's usually the best thing. And then say, okay, how does this card function? And if they don't line up toward the same path, they probably don't need to go in the same deck together. Like, a good example is like that deck we saw earlier, right? That had the Chrome Shark and some vehicles, and, you know, the vehicles that work with the Chrome Shark. But then it also had like Sunset Revelry and then some aggro things. And it was like, okay, I get where the idea is. Okay, my vehicles will be producing the artifacts from the Chrome Shark, and then I'll have some creatures to attack with in the meantime. But like, that's just not how decks play, right? Like, you're doing the aggro thing, or you're doing the control thing. So like Sunset Revelry doesn't need to be in an aggro deck because you're almost never going to get the benefit of the card, except for most often draw a card if you have your aggro draw, right? So like, does white really want to pay 2 mana at sorcery speed to draw a card? Probably not. There's better things you could do, especially if you're in aggro mode, right? So just things like that, where like, I see where they go together and I see what you're trying to do, but as far as how they function, they just don't really work. Like, that deck also had something. I had the Regal Bunnycorn. Regal Bunnycorn doesn't want to wait till turn 6, let's say, where you have the Chrome Shark and you countered something, so then you made the incubate token or whatever, and now you can play the bunny as a, I don't know, like a 5/5 or something that turn, right? It wants to be out there on like turn 3 as like a 3/3/4/4, and then boom, boom, get to be a 6 or 7 real fast and get the damage in. Because if I'm just playing Bunnycorn on like turn 7, then like I might as well just be playing a better creature, right? I could play one of the Elish Norns, or I could play a big Planeswalker. I could do a bunch of other things, right? It doesn't need to be Bunnycorn at that point. So just one of those things. Just one of those things. But yeah, deck building's always hard. Like, don't ever feel bad if your initial list doesn't work, or you're struggling with something or whatever, because that's very common, right? One of the things I think can be misleading when you look at content is that y'all don't see all the decks we build as creators that don't work. And that's a real thing, right? Like, I have had literally like the better part of a day where I worked on 2 different decks and they were both trash. So I was like, yeah, I can't. Like and each one I probably put 3-4 hours into, probably played about 25, 30 games with each. And I'm just like, they're just terrible. Right. So you never see those. They don't even get to see the light of day. They get deleted or they sit around and I go mess with them a week later after I have some other thoughts about them or whatever. And sometimes they never get to be in a video. But when we get to show a deck, y'all are only seeing basically our successes, right? So the impression you get is somebody like me or CGB or Ash or whoever are just out here. Every deck we make is a banger, right? But that's just not true. We have a bunch that don't work. We have a bunch of ideas or combos we try that just don't get there. So we just don't make videos of them. Now, again, I personally think that's the content people should be watching, because I think if we build those decks and we struggle and you get to see all the things that don't work, you end up not trying those things and saving yourself time. However, we all know that people just want to see the decks that are winning games. Even though in reality, that doesn't make people better players. That doesn't make people better deck builders, but that's just what they want to see. Now, I will say this. I have considered making some of the test games that don't work out some of the video footage that I offer to level 2 and higher YouTube members. Don't know if I'm going to do that, but I might at some point. So it's a thought. Just saying. I don't know if that's something that people would even want to see. Cyanic says, very true. I've been trying to get a Vesuvian Diplomacy plus, hold on a second. Trying to get a Vesuvian Diplomacy plus Calyx deck. I've gone through so many iterations and I just can't make it. Oh, Diplomancy. Yeah, Diplomancy is just a bad card. I've tried a few different times. Let me bring the card up so people know what we're even talking about. Oh, I have to delete a deck because I'll just delete one of these ones we worked on earlier. But yeah, I've worked on that or with that card a bunch of times. And don't be wrong, like one or two people can make a deck that does a thing and maybe it works in the play queue and that's cool. Oh, why did I put that? It's Duplimancy? Is that what it is? There it is. This thing. So whenever you cast a spell that targets a single target or creature you control, create a token that's a copy of the artifact creature or artifact or creature, except it's non-legendary. The problem with this card is it's 4 mana. You also have to have another target. All right, so that's the other issue. And then you have to have an additional spell that you can even use to target the thing you have out there to target. And sometimes you may not even get a use out of this card, right? If you're lucky, you do. But even then, it's like, what are we copying that I wouldn't just want? Like, more often than not, this card is just better being another card. I think that's the issue. Let's see. A compilation of vid of bad decks called. No, I'm not doing that. Like, you will just get the raw footage of, hey, here's something I tried that didn't work. Look how bad it blew up. And that's probably it. Like, you can't, it would be too much to ask for, like, just bonus footage being out there that I have to spend extra time editing to make compilations of what, like, that's so much extra work for a thing that gets no return. Like, anything I give to the members is I'm just giving it to you. I don't make extra money on that. Like, y'all already gave me like the $1.99 or whatever it is. Like, I get nothing else on that. Like, if you notice, any of the videos that have gone to members don't have ads on them. They're like, you just get them as they are, right? They're members videos. Like, that's not for bonus money or anything. So, like, I can only put so much extra time into those because there's nothing extra coming from them. I'm just taking care of y'all because y'all took care of me. You know what I mean? That's what those are there for. It's another 4-mana enchantment that doesn't do anything in the turn it comes out. Yeah, pretty much. That's a good way to talk about Duplimancy. When you brew a deck, how concerned are you about each archetype, like aggro, mid-range control? Find something to try to win against everything. The deck gets stretched thin. You don't. That's exactly it. That's another point that's worth bringing up. You're going to have some bad matchups. You just deal with it. Like, I think that's what hurts a lot of people. A lot of people try to, like, okay, well, I need to have at least a couple cards for this particular control card that always beats me. And then I got to have a couple of copies of a thing for Shieldred. And then in a couple of copies of things for Mono Red. And blah, blah, blah. Before you know it, your deck's not even doing the thing it's trying to do anymore because you're playing a bunch of 1s, 2s, and 3s of a bunch of different cards. And then when you don't hit those matchups, you basically are drawing like 3 or 4 dead cards throughout the game that don't do anything. So you're better off just focusing in on the thing you're trying to do. Be aware of the format and the metagame, and like if there's sweepers, if there's a lot of aggro, if there's spot removal, whatever, just understand, okay, how do my cards interact in these scenarios? And can I circumvent it without changing the deck too much? Then yeah, I'd probably consider it. If it's, well, I have to play these 3 copies of this other thing, and then I don't care. I'm just like, if you have it, you have it. Right. And that comes up a lot in the YouTube comments where people are like, oh, you should play this in the deck. You should play this in the deck. And I want to ask, but I know it sounds rude if I say it. I'm like, okay, cool, but what do you replace? Right? That always becomes the argument. Like there's like today's deck, like we play +1/+1 counter deck. There's literally like probably 20 extra cards you could put into that list. And we've built different versions of it that use some of those cards. But it's like, okay, but if you add that, what do you take away from this? And then does the deck still do the exact same thing we're trying to do with it because we replace those other cards? And I think that's what gets people in trouble. Like it's all about, I want to have this other thing, but we're not really thinking about the value of what we're taking out of the decks too. Hungry for More plus Mana Form Hellkite equals 15 damage. I don't even, apparently, I don't know what Hungry for More is. Is that even a card? Oh, maybe I have to put standard. Yeah, the card, it's been weird like that. I didn't do that last time. Okay, yeah. All right. It is this, what I thought. All right. So create a black vampire creature to lifelink, trample, whatever. And then Mana Form Hellkite. These are not what I would call something you build a deck around. Like you build a deck that already cares about Mana Form Hellkite, and then you can play Hungry for More. But I'm not worrying about getting Hungry for More plus Mana Form Hellkite. I'm not building around those. If anything, I'm building a spell heavy deck that cares about Mana Form Hellkite, maybe the egg, right? It's probably type dragon. It's probably not even type egg, I bet. Yeah, this. Oh, it is. It's dragon egg. So like something like this, whatever. So I'm playing spell heavy already, and then I happen to be playing Hungry for More, right? So then if I get any combination of this stuff, then I can just do big silly things. Because right, like maybe I'm playing this, maybe I'm playing what is it? The battle that makes a dragon. I put Battle Dragon, but yeah, Invasion of Tarkir. So like you can play that. So then you extra triggers when you flip the egg, and you have this on the backside, like something like that, right? Probably more of what you do. You don't really worry about building off the 2-card combo, because that's the other thing too. If you're going to put some stuff in the deck as a deck building thing, is the deck good if you don't get either of those parts, right? And then the question comes, do either of the parts still work with the majority of the deck? So then you get a really big payoff if you get those 2 parts together. But if I don't get one half, do I still have a highly functioning deck? And then if I have neither, do I still have at least a functioning deck? That's where you should start when you start thinking about squeezing 2 cards in the deck. And if you have to play a bunch of bad cards to justify 1 or 2 cards being in the deck, then I wouldn't build the deck. Right? Because again, if you don't get those 2 parts, then your deck's going to be just a bunch of bad cards waiting on those cards to show up. And I've seen that happen to people too many times. It's like, oh, but I really want to play this combo. And it's like, okay, cool, but you're playing 10 bad cards, which is literally 1/6 of your deck. Better than 1/4 of your actual spells are going to be bad when you draw them. Right? So you just got to stay away from that. Let's see. Cyanex says, the only way I've been able to make it relatively decent is with Jukai Naturalist going, make it cheaper, but yeah, too expensive. Oh, yeah, you're talking about the Duplimancy. Yeah. After many a day attempting to work on it, completely agree. The best I ever managed was making token copies of Planeswalkers. Even then, it just leads to being run over by aggro decks. Yeah, like, you could just play better cards that deal with the aggro creatures and then just finish them with Planeswalkers. Don't know about Calyx, but Duplimancy does work well with mutate cards. Like, sort of. But again, you have to set up a board, and you have to have a thing that can take advantage of the mutate being a thing, and then maybe the creature triggers from the duplimancy. It's like, would the deck still be good if you just had a mutate card that did the mutate thing, and then duplimancy was just another card? The answer is probably yes. I guess good content gets discarded based on view count, although I would bet it's based on a small sample size, and the long-term benefits might be underestimated. I could say a whole lot about that, not negatively, but it's just a whole deep dive on how like social media works, how YouTube works. Like that's a whole separate conversation. All right. So yeah, I think we covered a lot on how to fix some decks, some tips for deck building, just a lot of that type of stuff. You just kind of got to figure it out as you go along. Some of it becomes experience. You know, if you do it enough, that's a thing. But otherwise, I think that's where we're going to call it. So, if I can make last sales pitch, hey, it's Christmas. You want to buy merchandise or whatever, there's links on YouTube. Also, if you want to join my Discord, links are below. You can come in the Discord anytime if you want deck help or whatever. If you want to directly support me and get some extra videos and get to participate in some content stuff, I have a bunch of memberships on YouTube. You can check those out. And they're as cheap as like 99 cents, which is cool. And if you already would subscribe on Twitch, like I have a $5 level that gets you some specific things as well. And I think that's kind of it, y'all. You know, as always, check out my sponsor over at Cool Stuff Inc. They're super nice. They support me. They take care of me. And they're helping me pay for an editor so y'all get more content. So whenever you go over to Cool Stuff Inc., be sure to use code DRAGON, save your 5% so they know that you're one of my people. So they'll want to keep supporting the channel. But yeah, we'll see. I think next time you see me for a stream, we'll probably be talking about murders at Karlov Manor or something. Who knows? There's going to be a lot of stuff coming down the pipe right after Christmas. So, also keep your eyes out. I have a lot of cool, I can't talk about them yet, but a lot of cool shorts that are going to be launching over the next 5 days. Yeah, because they go all the way past Christmas. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff coming. Anyway, I'm going to catch y'all in the next video because I got to go grab a snack. I got to hydrate, and I got to finish editing a video so I have something to watch tomorrow so I can keep that pile of almost 4-year streak alive for you. But anyway, I love y'all, all y'all that came through. Super appreciated. All of you that subscribed, the new members, just love you so much. Thank you. Also for hopping in tonight, Midnight HXC. It's good to see you. Being a member, always nice. We had new members here on YouTube, which is super thankful. Even had a handful of y'all watching on Facebook tonight. So thank you for that. So wherever you watch me, I always appreciate it. Y'all know the drill. Wherever you're watching, whenever you're watching, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please remember to take care of yourselves and your people that are close to you. Tell people you love them. Hug them, your best friends. Let them know you care about them. Check in on people. Remember to be awesome. Most importantly, remember to be awesome to each other.